going on, everybody? Welcome back. The 2025 NFL Draft is over, and we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, plenty of stuff going on today. I know the Packers fans are flooding the chat. I see Chris, Drew, and Joseph already here. It's going to be a good time. We're going to talk a lot about the round 4, round 5, round 6, round 7 picks. We're going to go through some of the favorite drafts, and we're obviously, of course, going to talk about Green Bay as well as we kind of work through all of it because there is so much to talk about. Let's go here as we'll get to some comments quick before we truly get underway. Chris, good evening. Drew says this draft feels like a B-, referencing Green Bay. A lot of people, I think, really like what Baron Sorrell might bring to this team, which I think is, exciting. It was a big D-line day, right? So, I think you should be excited about it. I know, corner is something that, we'll probably discuss when we get to Green Bay and a lot of their picks, but I want to get through a decent amount of what happened today, and that's where we're going to go. I've got some fun stuff to bring up about Green Bay's draft, and we will, I promise, get there. But let's go to the first order of business here. Favorite round 4 selections. We're going to go to the board here and take a quick peek at all of this. So we obviously started the Tennessee Titans. They got 3 receivers today. DK was the first one they took. They ended up getting Iomanor later, and they did bring in undrafted free agent Xavier Restrepo to help out Cam Ward. Obviously there's there's a teammate connection there with with Cam Ward and Restrepo at Miami. But some of my favorites here, obviously Bashal Tutin going to Jacksonville, I think is really interesting. They actually drafted 2 running backs today, which to me signals that Travis Etienne, his time might be at an end in Jacksonville either by the end of this year or if some team, floats some interest out there via trade. I love the Scatabo pick. I know not everybody's in on Scatabo, which is what it is. That's totally fine. But I just love the through contact skill set, the lateral toolbox, the vision, especially in terms of first and second level. And, I think the pretty rapid acceleration that he has at his size, and also the pass catching ability. So that's I think what's really exciting about him and Tracy. I think is a really good backfield. I don't think Tracy had to do all of it himself, right? And so that's what I think. Cam Scatabo can help ease that load a little bit for him. So Scatabo was definitely one of my favorite selections in round 4. The next one, defensive tackle Ty Robinson for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are going to come up a lot during this kind of day 3 recap for sure, just because they did what they do, right? They continue to have a bunch of picks on day 3. Same with another bird franchise in Baltimore that they do a great job down the stretch in these things. Ty Robinson is going to offer the Eagles a lot as a pass rusher. You can keep him in the rotation. And, I think that, you don't have to have him on every single down out there, but what he can offer you as a pass rusher with the power, with the hands, right, all the moves he has is going to add value to that rotation. I do think the Eagles, and I know some people in the comments, Joseph saying, I didn't care for the Eagles draft. I think that's fair. I think they did a lot better once they got to day 3 than I do think, they had the first 2 days. So there was a little bit of that for sure. I think they cleaned up pretty well. San Francisco, man, we're going to talk about them probably at the end as well. But CJ West in the 4th round at 113, man, that's Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, and CJ West going to San Francisco, and probably not all of them will pan out. But man, that is a dominant run defense unit. If you can get starter level play from all of them, truly that is really impressive from San Francisco to go out and get 3 guys who can immediately contribute on that defensive line. Another one that I liked a lot in the 4th, I do think we're going to have a lot of talk about these 3, right? And Jack Sawyer, Baron Sorrell, and Kyle Kennard. Three guys who are going to kind of be joined together in terms of monitoring their careers and seeing how they progress is kind of, probably sub-package pass rushers for the most part. I think Sorrell offers you the most power at the position. Kennard's probably the springiest mover, and Sawyer's kind of the lunch pail guy of the three. I would have Sawyer the lowest of these three. I haven't, you just don't quite see it with Sawyer. I know he figured out how to win at the collegiate level. I think it's going to be tougher for him. So I'll be really interested to see how Sorrell and Kennard do in their careers. Love that the Colts just, again, continue to swing on big dudes with athleticism, right? Jalen Travis, 6'7", 340, playing offensive tackle. From Iowa State, the RAS was pretty high as well. Like, that is one of those big swings. But again, you're at 127. I think it makes a lot of sense. Baltimore ticked me off with this one. Love Teddy Buchanan. Love how violent and willing he is to get mixed up in traffic in the run game. He just was lighting up Auburn this past year. He was kind of one of the linebackers after not this one, after Stutzman for New Orleans. I was kind of like, all right, there's only a few linebackers I really like left in this one. And then, of course, Buchanan comes off the board just a little bit later, which was tough. I do think, Mike Kawano's in. Oh, what's going on? Mike says Buchanan feels a lot like Desmond Bishop 2.0. Yeah, I really wanted Buchanan in Green Bay. I think he's going to do some nice work for Baltimore as they kind of look for, I would say, other options, right? They drafted Malik Harrison. They've drafted Trenton Simpson, right? There's kind of not a whole lot, that they're getting from those guys. I think Buchanan is at the very least a really good depth piece immediately for them. The Ravens, again, continuing to do a great job. The Saints getting Quincy Riley, I really liked in this round as well. Physical, competitive corner. Interested to see where they play him, right? If they're going to maybe mix it up with him inside and out, we'll see. But I did really like that. Obviously, Malachi Moore has seen it all, right? Playing in a Saban defense for a long, long time until this past season. So probably pencil him into the nickel. And I think that he's going to offer the Jets some floor, especially, again, with their coverage unit, because I think, losing DJ Reed is a big deal for them. But, the Bears getting Hippolyte he's kind of one of the bigger linebackers that was in this class. It's just 236. So it's something to monitor there for sure. Jalen Royals, yak guy, win down the field guy. Like, this is kind of close-ish to what the Chiefs needed in terms of the last piece in that receiver room. You've got Xavier Worthy, who I think is more than a speed guy, but that's obviously, what people point to first. I think he's obviously very sudden and it's got good throttle control as well. But Royals, another big body in that room. You have Rice coming back next year. That's going to, I think, give kind of the Chiefs maybe a well-rounded room. And I know they've got Elijah Badger as well in undrafted free agency, so that's something to monitor too. When it comes to the rest of this, it's not bad. Q Robinson's another one for Denver of how you're going to match him up a lot with the guys who went in this round, right? The Sawyer, Sorrell, Kennard trio. Q Robinson is going to be another where we're going to be monitoring him kind of versus those guys. If the Patriots can get more consistency out of Joshua Farmer, right, because he was able to line up and win as a pass rusher from the 5 tech all the way and 3 tech, like he can do both. He's got the arm length obviously to challenge interior players a ton. So yeah, I think he is somebody, if you can unlock consistency, again, that's a big word for him for sure. But like, this is, Vrabel and the Patriots defensive coaching staff might be just what the doctor ordered there. And obviously the Titans adding some height, weight, speed, and Io Manor to end the 4th. We're going to go into the 5th now. Just a few players that I liked a lot. Joseph said Ravens did fine. Mike says Green Bay's at a bare B+. Drew said, never thought Royals played with the speed he tested at. I don't remember what his speed was he tested at. It was like 4.43 maybe. But Goot definitely clearly liked what Green Bay had at corner with that Nate Hobbs addition. But round 5, I thought the Panthers started out nicely getting Cam Jackson. Baltimore gets a developmental tackle in Vincent, who I thought actually showed a decent bit when it came to the Senior Bowl, right? In terms of, being comfortable with the movement skills, being comfortable against, you know, SEC, Big 10, Big 12 level pass rushers. So again, he's not ready yet, but this is a great spot to take a player like that. I knew that, obviously we were talking about him a lot in Green Bay mocks of like, hey, take him in the 7th. This is kind of what I figured more of, like top 150 area, and he does go there. Where was another one? Obviously, Shedeur, we can have that conversation as well, right? This is about time, right? For Sanders there, that was, again, we kind of talked about it last night in our kind of, group recap of day 2 that was like, okay, this is going to be the most anticipated day 3 in a long, long time, if not of all time, where we're going to see where Sanders goes, and is ultimately Cleveland. And I don't actually mind Cleveland taking a couple swings at quarterback, right? If you don't have one, you might as well take multiple swings and see what comes out. And so if I were Shedeur, would I want to go here? Maybe not, but you got to take what you can get. So I do think it was wild, right? When you look at probably Cleveland's, draft in terms of value versus the consensus board, they're probably going to get a big boost for this one, right? Like that's what's going to happen there. Swinson's a good pass rusher. New England lands him. Again, another guy who will probably be compared with the Q Robinson, Sawyer, Sorrell, and Kennard trio. Like those 5 are going to probably be connected a lot in the coming years. Cowboys got Jaden Blue. He's a little bit of a fumbler, but that's kind of their lightning, and I think they grabbed Thunder later in the draft as well. I think Giddens complements Taylor very well, right? Giddens isn't the fastest. Taylor's got that size and speed, but Giddens is very quick. Quick twitch, great lateral toolbox, going to make you miss in space. I do like what Giddens provides there, although Giddens has to catch the ball better. Lots of concentration drops from him, so that's something we will definitely monitor during his rookie season. A couple of good O-line picks here. Jalen Rivers was essentially moonlighting back and forth all season long at Miami between guard and tackle, and he got a lot of reps everywhere down in Mobile. I actually like this better than Cincinnati taking Fairchild earlier, which I think they took Fairchild was their 3rd pick at guard in round 3 yesterday. I like Rivers here better than that. I think it's more. I think he's bigger, but I think he gives you a chance to have a lot of clean pockets for Burrow to deliver. They have to have that. That's something that's non-negotiable for the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm glad they at least took 2 swings on the offensive line. The rest of the draft, not my favorite. Love Marcus Bowe for the Giants. Yeah, he plays a little light, and that's going to be maybe the biggest knock for him, and that's why he was available, at 154, because he's playing around 300 to 304, and that's probably not what you want for a guard, which I think a lot of people think he's going to end up playing there. So, but again, the footwork, the movement skills, the snatch that he has is so good. I'm really impressed with what he brings to the table there, and I actually like the Keandre Lambert-Smith pick. I think he's good hip sync, efficient route runner, but also can play above the rim. He's not the fastest, but a possession receiver that can get open at the very least. And yeah, the Chargers, of course, also fascinating me of how Oronde Gadsden is going to fit in the thing. And I see some folks talking about Drew likes Jason Marshall and Giddens. Mike saying if Shedeur can't beat out Gabriel, DTR actually is in Philly, Mike. They did that DTR for Kenny Pickett swap. So those 2 traded places. But yeah, I think, what else? Bo was a good one. Were the safeties good picks? The safety class, I don't think here we're going to get to a couple down the line that I thought were better picks, but yeah, and the Elijah Roberts, I do think that was indeed where Green Bay was looking, right? Obviously had a meeting with him, so that certainly helps. I feel like they had a meeting with everybody they drafted this year, which is obviously they draft a lot of players they meet with, and that's the case for a lot of teams, but it does feel like usually you get 1 or 2 guys in Green Bay's class, especially early, where they're like, okay, they didn't really meet with them a lot. There was maybe a minimal interest here and there, but it wasn't like a top 30, bring him in at the end of the year type of thing. So yeah, Elijah Roberts there was a very, very much a possible, you know, got him just before Green Bay. Torrey Horton, Seattle finally getting an outside receiver, which is good for them. Jackson Slater, I'm really intrigued by because this might actually be kind of the final piece for Tennessee's offensive line. So definitely something to monitor there out of Sacramento State. Miles Frazier to Detroit, that one hurt a lot. The Ravens, I know Joseph brought up the Ravens draft was fine. I'm surprised Emory Jones went in the 90s and Miles Frazier went at 171. Very, very strange development there. Just not sure what that was about, why Frazier fell so far. He did work at both the guard spots, worked at right tackle in Mobile, and was pretty impressive overall. Chris Paul Jr., he's small, and that's the biggest knock on so many of these linebackers in this class. It's a small linebacker class with the pendulum shifting to running the football again, and you need big guys at defensive end, and you need linebackers who can fit the run. You're kind of going to need, bigger linebackers to take on some of these blockers and find a way through contact. And obviously Paul is a lot smaller, but it's hard not to like what he brings to the table as a runner in space. But then again, that's a lot of the linebacker position. He's going to have to learn the ins and outs. He's going to have to find a way to avoid contact at all costs. That's really going to be his main goal, I think, in the league. Tyler Barron's intriguing. A lot of pressures out of Miami. I think he was at Tennessee before that. That's an intriguing one for the Jets. Let's go to round 6 as well. That weird little swap there that I don't know why the Browns were interested in doing that, but it is what it is. The Browns are always very weird. The Bills took 3 corners. Yeah, I see Dorian Strong here as well. I thought that was a nice start. And Bilal Kone for Baltimore as well was nice. Philly taking Kyle McCord was interesting. It's not really one of my favorite selections, but again, Philly just taking some swings at QB. Don't hate that for them one bit. Devin Neal, love this. Quick, little bit of explosion there on top of it, but just so much fun as a build it up to the top gear at the second level in terms of how he plays, and so I really am impressed with Neal and have been for some time, and so I really do think he can complement Alvin Kamara very well and potentially just take over long term, and that'd be very exciting to watch. Will Howard. At this point at 185, no problem with that at all. I think, he became a little bit more than a point guard down the stretch for Ohio State. So really impressed with what he can do as kind of maybe being a little more of a driver than a passenger at the quarterback position. I don't think he's going to light the world on fire, right, in terms of what he does for Pittsburgh, because he's essentially, from what has been reported, is probably just, again, going to be the backup or the third string as a rookie when Rodgers inevitably comes in. But I do think that was, well worth it at 185. We got a Sam Ehlinger 2.0 in Riley Leonard there. I like Cabledew for Seattle here from Kansas. Really, really strong athlete. I think he does play a little upright on the offensive line. So that's, I think, my biggest concern with him. But if you continue to hone that technique, right, he might be somebody who can play multiple spots along the Seattle offensive line. Love Taj Brooks' creativity and creation skill set when faced with a lot of trouble. He'll play off Chase Brown very nicely. And it's tough to shout out the Lions again, but Ahmed Hassanin, 196 for a project edge who has, I think 24 sacks the last 2 seasons. You don't just run into that production willy-nilly. Of course, there are high quality and low quality sacks, right? And you kind of have to differentiate that. But yeah, and also I think one of the cooler stories, right? Obviously comes from Egypt. He's played football for about 6 years. He actually proposed to his girlfriend, as he was, essentially around the same time he got picked and did the conference call and all that. So that was very cool to see. I think this was maybe my favorite pick for the Packers on day 3. Warren Brinson, defensive tackle for Georgia. I think I've talked to some folks. They seem to think that he might be the nose tackle, right? Doing the yeah. Well, Drew bringing this up. No idea what Houston's doing, and they traded up to go get Mertz on top of it. I think they gave up 2 picks to go up to 197. I don't get that one bit. Brinson really could. I think at 315, he's potentially going to be the nose tackle, right, and get a lot of those one tech reps. And the Packers did bring in Stackhouse as well from Georgia at defensive line in undrafted free agency as well. So continuing to restock the cupboard of Georgia players. We got 3 Georgia defensive linemen on the roster now, which is pretty wild. Kawano saying the bigger high school linebackers all become edge rushers in college now. I do feel like, and some of the, and sometimes the safeties are coming down to fill at linebacker, right? And they can just barely get up to 225, and that's kind of what we're seeing. Because like, oh, you're bigger, you're at least bigger, and you're fast. Let's add, 10 to 12 pounds, and you can play some linebacker for us. I feel like that's also happening as well, but that's a really good point by Mike there. Joseph said, remember last year we gushed over Fautanu and McCormick, and also Frazier too from Pittsburgh. They did a triple down, which I thought was really excellent. It'll be fun to see. Hopefully, Fautanu healthy this year for Pittsburgh. Essentially coming in to be a rookie, kind of like Morgan for Green Bay. Essentially going to be coming in doing stuff as a rookie. You can add him to the rookie class. I do think Banks and Belton will do that for the Pack. Yeah, I'm excited. On the weekly Cheddar channel, Joseph, I'm going to do kind of something on that of like how, all of that's going to come together. Those 3, right? The Banks, Jenkins, and I would imagine Belton will all come together. I think that'll be really interesting to see. The Texans one is weird. Goody definitely had to scratch the Georgia itch. Definitely. Daniel, what's going on? It says 49ers drafted 2 nose tackles for some reason. I guess West has some upside at 3 tech too. Yeah, West is definitely a better pass rusher than Collins is, so they may try him at that spot. He's obviously got the quick hands, right? When you can have a quick first step and quick hands, you might be, it's at least showing you a little bit of something as a pass rusher. I think his pass rush win rate was pretty high. Kind of versus all the other perceived one techs. So I think that's maybe what they're seeing there. Yeah, because, did he go? He went after Ty Robinson. So I imagine, San Francisco tried maybe to get, Ty Robinson in there instead. Maybe would have been more complete. But I do think, the Niners, they understand they're playing, if they want to get back into this thing, they're going to have to play Detroit and Philly, right, who are both going to run the ball at a high level. So they need to have 4 guys up front who can do that. And if they're playing all 4 of them on early downs, like that's a massive headache for teams to run through. And that's maybe why they drafted Nick Martin, I think is who they drafted. I may be mistaken there. I forget which linebacker they drafted, but that could be like, hey, yeah, he's smaller, but he's physical enough, and we're going to free him up to go make some plays. I did like the Vikings back-to-back here. I think Bartholomew's maybe a little undersold in this tight end class, and Kobe King taking on blocks. We don't see a lot of guys take on blocks straight up and shed sometimes, but he certainly can do that, which I think is impressive at the linebacker position. Obviously, Medrano's been a favorite of some guys, right? Some across the industry and some people I've obviously talked to. Another guy who's going to be running and operating in space a lot. Chase Lunt. This is exactly the type of player the Bills select at tackle, right? This eerily mirrors Spencer Brown from a few years ago, and Brown's been really, really good for them. And Lunt's obviously got the outside zone skill set and the quicks. And Philly, I think, did a really nice job here down the stretch as well. Philly and Baltimore at the end of this round was really impressed. Obviously, R.J. Mickens went this late, which I think is interesting. Tommy Mellett's playing receiver from what I heard. But these 4, Philly going from, high upside developmental player on the offensive line with a lot of talent and a lot of pedigree in Cameron Williams to also getting a super, super productive edge rusher in Powell Ryland back-to-back shows you the kind of, we can do differing philosophies, right? We can take the big swing, but because we have a lot of picks, we can also take somebody who's been productive. And then the Ravens going Peebles and Longerbeam. And Longerbeam's a little thinner, but man, he's battle tested from that Rutgers scheme. And Peebles is kind of a game-wrecking bowling ball as a pass rusher with a lot of different moves. Like the Virginia Tech dudes have a lot in the pass rush bag, and both going here at the end of round 6 was pretty impressive. Yeah, Joseph, I think it's a good time to do that for sure as we transition. Maybe I'll kind of hit on that. But yeah, let's do that before we get to round 7. But yeah, Green Bay, I think, for all the concern about hosting, and I know some of the prospects were like, there's nothing to do here, which again, understandable, but this is, it's the draft. Like, this is what you're doing. You're celebrating this weekend, and I think you can certainly find some things to celebrate with, right? In Wisconsin, of course. But yeah, I think they did a great job. Obviously, the hall kind of being in the parking lot is maybe a little bit different than other places. But yeah, I think again they did a great job. Though they got great weather for it, which was huge. Because yeah, if it was snowing and the weather was a little miserable, it would have been tougher. I know it cooled off last night, which not everybody appreciated, but they got to open up Lambeau, which Drew just said, yeah, here in the comments as well. Like that's very, very cool. And obviously Murphy announcing the receiver selection in round 1 was very awesome. Clay Matthews and company, that Tom Grossi for Packers fans. He obviously got to announce the Robinson pick today, which was awesome. So it was very good. Green Bay did a heck of a job, and 600,000 people showing up in 3 days for the draft. Really, really cool. Glad that they could make that happen. I'm really sad I didn't make it up there. After all is said and done, I was exhausted last night. We did like a 2-hour recap show last night. So by the time I got to bed, I was like, man, we got to get up early, real early to go up there, for things to start. And so a shame I didn't make it up there, but, Pittsburgh, I'm excited. I've got some buddies out there, so I may actually head out for that one too, to see it and then kind of hang out there. But yeah, I'm very intrigued to see how Pittsburgh does. Pittsburgh is on the clock technically, in terms of the city, right? Not the team. Maybe the team will be next year. I don't know. Maybe they'll have the number 1 overall pick when things kick off next year. But we'll see. Yeah, I think so. Green Bay hosting again would be very cool if that were to get to happen again. Again, I know it's not the destination one that some of these are, but I know it was the second highest, I think they said, attendance, right? It was like tied, I think, with Nashville. And obviously Detroit had the highest number. So, yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised the Dallas one didn't have a lot of attendees, right? I mean, the weather, right? When you think about it, the big city area. But, I mean, just shows you, I think, the passion that will show up when you have an event near Lambeau Field that involves the sport. So hopefully they do. Hopefully they get it. Again, very soon, because I would love to get up there for one of them. Was the Dallas one during COVID? Maybe. I thought they just had a completely virtual one, because I thought that the COVID year was supposed to be Vegas, and they said, well, we'll move Vegas later, I think 2 years down the road, and they made it all virtual, but maybe not. I'm trying to remember. I thought, because Nashville was like 2018 or 2017, and then I think Philly and Dallas followed that, and maybe it was 18 and 19. I don't know. That's something we can find out, I'm sure. It could have been much higher, says Lee. Yeah. That'd be impressive. Dallas was 18, says Brandon Hallam. Welcome, Brandon, if I didn't say hello to you already. I think you said something about Houston up here, and I want to star that. Oh, I'm going to star both of these things you put in here, Brandon, so we can talk about them, because I agree with you on two teams really doing a great job doing so. Okay. Nashville was 19. Okay, yeah, I knew it was in some order around then. So, yeah, there you go. We're putting, 2020 was, I think it was supposed to be Vegas. 2020 was, and they said, well, we'll just push it down the line, and it's all virtual. Drew's got some of the Packers free agency signings in here. I saw Amar Johnson. I did not see Jalen White. I did see Tyler Cooper. I did see Stackhouse and Dumas Johnson. And I did see Baldwin from UNLV, but a couple new ones on there. Tyron Herring from Delaware. That's cool. Very, very nice. But yeah, Steelers could mimic it. I mean, they're on the river, right? They can do it near the stadium, I think. I think there's some space. They'll obviously have kind of that end of that city has like an end point where it's like a park that you can see the three rivers from, which I think is really nice. So they'll probably utilize that in some capacity. But I do think Pittsburgh could be a really good spot for it. It really could. And Lee, I did see you say you really like the Brinson pick, which it might be my favorite one today. It really might. But yeah, Green Bay, heck of a job. What an awesome thing to do that Mark Murphy got to still be president when they got to host one before he retires. So that was very cool, and I think he really enjoyed it, and you could see how emotional he was that this was going to kind of be his last time in the war room. But yeah, very, very awesome stuff. Yeah, Vegas was supposed to have the moat where they were bringing people via boat. I don't think they ended up doing that, but I know Vegas had it recently. I'm trying to think. You guys can go find the locations in order, but I do think, yeah, Miami's probably going to get one pretty soon. Miami, I think Miami more so than Tampa, but I wouldn't be mad at Tampa either getting one because I think it'd be less humid, to be honest. And it's not. I don't think Tampa's as busy as Miami, which might be beneficial. Might be beneficial to not do like the super big cities, right? The Chicagos. And I know radio cities work, but not really for the fans as much, right? The fans have been able to do a lot more because you're going to kind of the quote unquote mid-major cities almost, right? Which I think helps. So, and that's why I think Pittsburgh's going to be a really nice spot. I think Cleveland had it, right? Cleveland had one recently as well, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I think that will be, yeah, LA probably, Brandon, that's a good call. They'll probably get one soon as well, I imagine. Brandon, you got to tell me which Texans prospect you want me to break down for you, because that's the plan post draft. You'll have to give me one of the guys that you'd like to see. Obviously, I got both your receivers already there, which is nice. So hopefully you've gotten to see those already. But if not, they're both there. But you definitely got to let me know, Brandon, and Dana as well, who I know was in here as well. Let me know who you want to see broken down for Arizona, because I can definitely do that for you guys. And hopefully fans of your team will flock to them as they often do post-draft. So definitely let me know, because especially, right, I know the Green Bay fans are here and they're the core base, but I appreciate all of you who are in here. So that's really cool, and I want to give back because of that support. So Ursery, okay. Let me star that so I remember that one for Ursery. For sure. What's Adam Vincic? What's going on? He says, how do you feel about the Steelers draft? I know Drew and the company like learning about other teams. I know Kawano's a big draft dude, so, and Joseph is. Really everybody is in here. Lead is also. So, yeah, I think, yeah, let's pivot and let's take a look at your Steelers real fast since you're here. Oh, that's why. Jeez, I didn't know where that audio came from. All right, let me get to Pittsburgh, and we will talk about them very quickly. And then we'll take a look at some of the round 7 guys, but definitely let's talk about Pittsburgh really quickly, just because Adam is in here. Yeah, I mean, I like this a lot. I not as big on Sawyer, but I think, oh man, they said how to pronounce his name. It's like Waye or something. It's not anything close to what I thought it was. But I love the first two. The first two are so good. And I think this draft is really going to be remembered for Harmon, Caleb Johnson, and Will Howard. Right? I think those are your 3 for sure, because again, Harmon and Benton give you some interchangeable players. And on that, along that defensive line in terms of 1 tech versus 3 tech. So I think that's really good for you guys. And that 5-man front with Hayward still clinging to youth in many ways, I think is really, really exciting. And you can essentially add DK to this. So it's Harmon, DK, Caleb Johnson. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good if you ask me. That's pretty good. And Caleb Johnson is tailor made for this team. He is. It's wide zone, you know, quick processing speed, pick out the cutback lane, you know, or just continue to the outside, right, win the edge. Such a smooth runner too, and he works through arm tackles so easily. Like I really like what Johnson brings to that offense. Him and oh gosh, now I'm blanking on your other running back now, and I'm losing it. Oh geez, who is it? That's another J name, and I can't. I've lost it. It's that kind of week, but my goodness, it'll come to me. Someone will put it in the comments because they know. Jalen Warren, yes, thank you, Adam. There it is. Yeah, so Johnson and Warren, I think will be a nice duo there for sure. And again, you got the lead back. You got a pass rusher. You hope that the O-line this year will now mesh and come together. We'll see on Broderick Jones. I'm a little hesitant on saying that he's going to find it this year, but it's year 3 for a guy who has a lot of athletic upside. So I think this is kind of put up or shut up year for him. Otherwise, I think they'll be looking down the line. Yeah, the linebacker from Washington, interesting. I know Kent had a couple good seasons. I think in 22 and 23. So it's certainly, you know, worth checking out, but I think he adds a little to that secondary as well. But again, I think the core of this is going to come from Harmon, Johnson, and Howard, right? Because can Howard give you anything from pick 185? If so, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So, and maybe Way Black can give you something as well in terms of a rotational player. And same with Sawyer as a rotational guy, but obviously I don't think you're banking on these two to become quality starters. It's more depth and keeping the starters fresh with a good rotation. So Adam says, I think they drafted to stop the run after getting gashed by Baltimore. Yeah, Harmon and Black are definite picks to do that for sure. So let's see. Where do we want to go next here? I'm going to catch up on some of these comments, and then I'm going to go up and find round 7 as we I know we're getting close to, you know, kind of talking about all these drafts, and we certainly will. Let's just hit up a few comments before we get to round 7. Joseph likes both Texans picks. Brandon says, every year the Packers swoop in draft guys I really like. Last year was Edge, Cooper, and Bullard. This year's Golden and Belton. Yeah, I think everybody's really coming around to Belton as a player, especially when you think about him as a guard, not a true tackle, just because of how physical and powerful he can play, which, again, film room's going to drop tomorrow for him, and it was very impressed by all of that. Less so, of course, what he can do at tackle, more so what he can do at guard, and that's obviously a shift, right? They're kind of following suit with what the Rams' plan was last year of, hey, let's get Kevin Dotson, Jonah Jackson, and Steve Avila and kind of create a massive unit on the interior of our offensive line to get that massive push with the vertical running game. And I think Green Bay's making that push as well, right? And I think they've got a lot of good gap runner fits on the roster at running back with Lloyd and with Jacobs, who has obviously done it plenty, and even Emmanuel Wilson, right, who I think has enough acceleration to stay patient and then attack when things open up. You want Cody Simon for the Cards. Okay. I will mark that for you as well then. So Ursery for the Texans and Cody Simon for the Cardinals. Sounds good. He was not on the radar for most Cardinal fans. Okay, there we go. Cool. Joseph likes the Simon pick. Thought it was very solid. I think he's a good coverage backer. And yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Again, the Cardinals needed to add a lot on defense, and I think they did. I think they added a few corners, at least 2. I know they added, but because I think they added Burke as well, if I'm not mistaken. But we will definitely get to that for sure. Rodgers in Pittsburgh. Yeah, Harris did go to the Chargers. Want Rodgers in Pittsburgh so I can see Pickens throw temper tantrums. Hopefully Pickens will buy in at least for 1 year. Because if he can buy in for a year, right, like that's incentive to get paid. as a free agent. So he has incentive to kind of lock in a little bit more. Brandon saying Harris and Hampton may be a crazy run duo behind Slater, Becton, and Alt. Oh, that's right. They got Becton. Dang, yeah. And I know they added some other O-line. I think one more offensive lineman today. But yeah, Slater, Becton, Alt, that's awesome. That's very cool. They definitely will. Hampton's going to be a handful behind that offensive line. Well, yeah, Drew, this is the whole thing, right? Drew, this is the pendulum swing that we're happening right now. The explosive passing game, the spread, all of that, right? Stress, so much space is going away because now, right? Because everybody had to stretch, to constrict space, and they needed range and athleticism to do so, to constrict space, to stop the passing game. Teams said, okay, now you're getting lighter at linebacker and edge. Let's run the ball again, right? Let's get back to the vertical running game. Let's get back to 12 personnel, right? Let's get back to bigger, stronger offensive linemen all across the board, because now you got edges out at the wide 9, and we'll just take care of gaps and just, continue to just smash your face in, essentially, and then work on the under center play action game. So that shift is certainly happening. You saw 2 of the first 4 edge rushers go on Thursday were Michael Williams and Shamar Stewart, and that wasn't an accident. It wasn't, right? Jalen Walker's kind of a special, linebacker edge, move piece, can kind of do different things with, and then obviously Carter's on a different level, but the next 2 players were run D first edge rushers with upside, and JTT goes higher than you may think he would have, right? Because he can defend the run, and he's bigger and stronger. So yes, absolutely, that's what's happening. Right, the amount of nose tackles that were picked. You saw what San Francisco did. They took Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, and CJ West, right? Essentially 2 nose tackles. And then Dana obviously brought up that maybe West will do some 3-tech stuff, but that's a heavy unit stopping the run that you've added 3 guys to help Bosa out now. So that's definitely happening. The Bengals, it's not an accident they went and got Stewart. It really isn't. The Colts, same thing. Go get JTT. So that's definitely happening. That's why teams were, Caldwell goes in the 3rd round. He went to the Chargers. That they definitely need bodies stopping the run with the Chargers unit as well. So that's why Kenneth Grant goes 13th for the Dolphins. Like, they understand what they need to do right now, because the Bills were so effective running the ball last year, and now, the Patriots have Henderson and company that are going to get after it. So yeah, this whole pendulum swing is happening before our eyes again, and that very clearly influenced what happened this weekend with the draft, and which I think is just a really cool thing to kind of look at that big picture of what was going on. So, yeah, Drew says Belton's ability to pick up stunts is very impressive. Yeah, definitely. Should have been obvious. The Cards would look at the Ohio State linebacker in hindsight, so we steal their uniforms and coaches and players. Well, there you go. Because, yeah, they did get Burke as well. So they did their Ohio State homework. That's for sure. Rock Bass, what's going on? Welcome, says Goody has some pretty strong magic picking O-line, but I do love Sorrell and Brinson. Yeah, Sorrell and Brinson are pretty exciting additions for sure. And, yeah, Drew, there really weren't a lot of linebackers. It was a tough linebacker class where Carson Schlesinger goes 33rd because he's 242 and he's got athleticism, right? Like, that very clearly was kind of part of it. And that's the problem, right? These smaller linebackers, people don't necessarily want them because of this pendulum swing towards being able to run the football, stop the run. Like, you got to be bigger. So, Brandon Hallam says, fun fact about Ursary, barely missed an elite physical group by 0.01 seconds and a half an inch. Wow. At 331. Brandon Helm says, Will Campbell, Armand Membu, Trent Williams, and Tristan Wirfs are the only 4 offensive tackles over 315 with sub 540s and 30-plus inch verts. So did Ursary run a 5.0? Is that what he did? He ran 5 flat, and so he just missed it? That's what with the 0.01? That's pretty impressive. And I felt like Ursary was pretty valuable at where Houston got him. Rock Bass says, good luck stopping the run with the running backs coming out. Yeah, that was the other thing. I think 25, somebody said, running backs were taken in this draft. A lot of them today, of course, but was a quite a draft to need a running back, and obviously Green Bay brought in at least one, if I saw correctly, with Drew's posting here in the comments at how many running backs Green Bay brought in. But obviously they're going to bring a couple in undrafted free agency, so definitely worth doing. Teams did not mess around at the running back position, and luckily Chicago, it took them a while to get one. But I still like Kyle Manun guy. But yeah, Joseph, that is 100% why Green Bay is beefing up the offensive line. That's why they're getting bigger, especially on the interior, right? You can still, to me at least, you can still have your dancing bear, great footwork, great mirror skills, elite movement skills types at tackle, because even the bigger edge rushers, you can win a lot of those battles because you're technically sound, right? And you have good anchor ability. Your technique is phenomenal. You have a good base, and you have great knee bend, right? All of that stuff, and so that can still work. But on the interior, it certainly helps being able to make sure there's no interior disruption, and you've built this sort of clean wall in front, and also again be able to push people around in the run game. That's going to matter. It's very clear. And we kind of talked about it already. The Rams that was their approach last year of what they were trying to do. And I think Green Bay is following suit for sure. Coach Len, what's going on? I think Coach and I are on the same page with the golden pick. I think he's a complete package, 3-level threat. And for those in the comments here who have not seen the golden video on the channel, definitely do that. Definitely do that. And share it with some other Packers fans if you can. Would love to see that video reach 1K. I'm sure once we post some of the other ones, they'll probably flock to it, but it'd be cool to get that to 1K. Because y'all did a phenomenal job last year, somehow getting a Marshawn Lloyd video of all things to 11K. But yeah, that's what's exciting about these post-draft film rooms. Rock Bass says he likes to change with bigger guys up front, with only pass protectors. Yeah, at the very least, they're at the very least getting bigger guys who can push, but also still handle things in pass pro. I mean, when you look at, and again, it's not end all be all, but when you look at Belton's grades, he grades out better as a pass protector. So there is still value to that, but getting bigger can maybe help ensure a little bit of like, okay, we can generate that push. They're certainly going to be massive. Yep. Pickens needs to run block even a little. That's true. He does have to buy in that regard. Oh, 501 and a 29.5. Wow. I mean, yeah, if he was like 320, I do think he probably joins them. So that's really impressive for Ursary. Really excited to see how he does this year. Very, very excited. So, Joseph said, I dug deep into the cornerback group because I used to play it, but no corner really stood out. Yeah, to me, again, I know I might be on an island a little bit more than others apparently, but I thought Trey Amos was truly outstanding. And I would have picked him in the first, no question, probably even in the top 20 perhaps. But a lot of the other options, right, were either smaller guys who were nickels or just didn't quite have what I was looking for in terms of the processing and anticipation and all of that stuff. That I think, it's tough. Corner, you have to be good at a lot of stuff. And I think having that experience with Saban, I think matters a ton. So I like Noel, but there are guys like Porter and Thomas maybe a little bit as well of like, they're okay. They're not phenomenal, right? I do think Parrish stands out to me, Joseph, as like the Kansas State guy, but he's going to play the slot for Tampa Bay probably. So yeah, he's not a boundary guy. So yeah, I was a little underwhelmed. I think Justin Wally from Minnesota was a guy I heard very late in the process from a podcast I was listening to, but also guys posting on Twitter. So I got to his film real quick and adjusted the ranks because he flew way up above a lot of guys. Mayor, what's going on? Popping into the chat this evening. Good to see you. It says this draft told me the Packers are not likely to extend Watson or Dobbs. Looks like Walker might not be extended either, and Ryan as well. Yeah, it looks like this 2022 class, though it provided a ton of value, may just kind of be on the way out. Which, that's, again, reloading. And I think Green Bay is clearly taking this approach at receiver of like, hey, we're going to play the surplus value game and we're not handing out second contracts unless you are elite of elite of elite, which I think that is probably a good way to do it, right? So that's that's what I think is kind of what their approach is going to be from now. Maybe in the entire Goody tenure, however long that lasts, of like, hey, we're just going to continue to reload, and we'll continue to build it that way, not give out a lot of second contracts, which I think is the right move. Lee says, what started the pendulum swing? I think there's a few games. I think a few games started it, right? Where, you had teams playing a lot more of the quarters and the too high shell, which can be a lot of different things, right? It could be cover 2, could be cover 4, right? It could be cover 6, which is, cover 2 one side, cover 4 the other, right? A lot of that to limit the explosive passing game, right? And the idea was that, we have a lot of these guys that are, spread out on offense and like the explosive players, and they're taking advantage of yards after the catch because they have explosive players, and there's so much space that they can operate in. And the idea was, to build like 7 guys into the coverage where you're restricting space as much as you can. You're forcing checkdowns, right? And you're forcing them to march 17, 18 plays down the field because they were throwing so much that you could often force a mistake or turnovers in that regard. And Anarumo did it a lot against Mahomes. The one AFC championship they lost, other than the first one they went to, where he dropped 8 into coverage, and there was nothing to do. And because Kansas City had built a pass protection unit and not a run, kind of a physical group running the football, they weren't ready for it. And so when you start seeing that, 2 safeties up and guys have to be late all the way coming downhill to fit the run, like that changes a lot of things, and you can go attack that way. And that's, and getting after the passer was big, right? Because it was like, okay, the explosive passing game, all these plays are down the field. We need those edge rushers who can win the corner, who can bend the edge, who can create that type of disruption, so that these longer developing explosive plays won't materialize. But now, because they have smaller edge rushers out there, they have smaller linebackers trying to constrict that space, and guys are way down the field, right? 2 safeties are way down the field, not fitting the run as quickly. You can go, okay, cool. We have access to this gap. We have access to this gap because we have bigger guys, and we can go into 2 tight end sets. And that's the other thing about this, that I think the pendulum swing is big. And unfortunately, Chicago and Detroit have figured it out, where you have an elite tight end as a pass catcher who can also block. And that's sort of your formation adjuster, right? Laporta has become even a much better blocker than he was in recent memory, kind of as a prospect as well. And that has helped the Lions become more positionless, because Laporta can go play the slot, you're 11 personnel. And right, he's got a physical mismatch against whoever's going to cover him. But also, if you are in, quote, 11 with a good receiving tight end, you can bring him inside of the line, right, and attach him to the line of scrimmage, and then just go push people off the ball, right, essentially with 2 tight ends, because you're in 12 now when you were essentially in 11 before. And that's where I think the Loveland conversation gets really interesting with Chicago, unfortunately, because I think that's what they're going to do a lot more of. And I think your Puka Nakua's, right, who can help as a blocker. I think Jack Besh going to Vegas with the Raiders, I think, is going to help this out, right? You having this sort of positionless offense where you can dictate personnel, but also still get favorable matchups if a defense comes out to match this or this, right? If they match 11, you have a great blocker who I think is going to be able to open holes, insert blocks when you put him, into the A gap, which the Rams do with Puka. So you have all this baked into your offense, where now the defense has to pick and choose, and they might lose no matter what. So that pendulum swing, though, part of that is obviously getting bigger up front on the offensive line, investing into running back, and being able to take advantage of when teams are in that too high, quote, shell, whether it be cover 2 quarters or cover 6. So it does feel like that kind of what that started the pendulum swing. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. Rock Bass, having Jacobs and jump cuts does help with the stalemates as well. Yeah, when you have guys who can press the line of scrimmage and be able to work outside and win the corner, that's going to help a lot. Have great patience, but also have balance through contact. All that good stuff certainly matters. Omer, I think, was with me as well, saying, yeah, Amos would have been awesome. Yeah, but after Amos, the corner room, I think with Revel, right, coming off injury was really the question with him. But yeah, I think corner dries up it did dry up pretty quickly in this draft. Besides defenses getting too light, what caused it other than defenses getting too light? Well, I think that's kind of what starts it, right? You have the pass heavy offense dictating, okay, now we need to put more guys into the coverage structure. Because there's so much in the coverage structure and they want more access to constrict space, right? You have smaller defenders who are better athletes. I think that's kind of where it starts. Drew said I liked Amos, but there was a concern about change of direction, didn't do a 3-cone or short shuttle. I thought he did a short shuttle and it wasn't very good. I thought he definitely didn't do the 3-cone. But I don't think, other than to me, I think the one hiccup maybe with Amos is the deceleration and reacceleration on routes that are breaking kind of back toward the line of scrimmage on a vertical plane. Because other than that, I think transitioning horizontally, I think he did a really good job of. But that's just me. That's kind of where I'm at with Amos. Well, I appreciate that, Omer. It's good to have you here. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, the post-draft stuff, and we got a lot coming out for that. Does kind of feel like they did short themselves a second rounder. It would have been really cool if they got to do Golden, Amos, and then Belton. Kind of in a 1-2-3 punch would have been really, really something else. But it is what it is, I don't know if they really got sniped, but in my eyes, based on how I would have drafted, yes, the Noah Williams one that the Chiefs did was tough to see, but yeah, it was not bad. And they're obviously bringing in speed in Savion Williams, and we'll get to talk about him probably on Monday. Kobe didn't get picked. Kobe is definitely a really talented player and a really physical player. So, yep. Omer nails it. Yep. You only extend the elite players. And Zach Tom, I think, has proven to be that. Yeah. And the cap is still going up. And so you can still hand out some mid-level contracts, right? And maybe the Watson injury allows you to do so. And I do agree with Rock Bass here, because I think Watson took some really good steps. I don't think he's ever going to be an elite receiver 1, but I do think he can be an elite field stretching Z, who can really elevate your offense. I don't know what you would pay that player per year, but the injuries are certainly going to bring down the price tag there. Savion's very interesting. I think he's lacking consistency as a true receiver, but the rare movement skills, I think, is what the draw is. And I kind of figured he was going to get drafted ahead of where I thought he would because of that. Not a great day to be a Kansas player. Yeah, because I don't think Logan Brown got picked either, if I'm not mistaken. Joseph said thought Savion would go a little sooner. Yeah, definitely. More free agents. We need corners for depth. It'd be great if they could go out and get Kobe Bryant, and just say, go eat some Culver's for a week and get back to us. Yeah, Neil definitely went a lot later than I think a lot of people thought. Other than that, let's see here. I see Brian's thing, and I'm going to get to that. I don't think I have much on JJ Lippy. Is that how you say it? Oh, he's Northern Illinois guy. All right. I will get you some thoughts on Lippy for sure, Brian. Definitely get to some thoughts on that. For sure. Yeah, we'll definitely get there. I don't have any currently, but I will at some point. Joseph says, I think Goot will sign Asante Jr. Oh, that's right. He hasn't signed. That's interesting. Oh, yeah, Melo wasn't either. Melo did not get drafted. I mean, Melo's testing wasn't very good, right? But, yeah. And I know Zy Alexander didn't get drafted either. So, again, I think the NFL thought pretty similarly, where it's like, yeah, there's a pretty decent cornerback drop-off, and we're not super interested in a bunch of guys early. So, Dana asks, do you think Belton will start right away? And is he the right tackle? I assume he's going to battle for the right guard position, Dana, because that's really the one spot right now that isn't taken. Rasheed Walker's going to be left tackle, of course. Aaron Banks moves into left guard, which kicks Elton Jenkins to center. And you kind of have Sean Ryan, Jordan Morgan, who maybe is going to be the long-term left tackle, and that's what they're thinking of, not paying Rasheed Walker. And then you bring Belton in as your right guard because he's big and extremely physical and has a ton of pancake blocks. I imagine he's going to be the right guard. Goody mentioned Belton and Banks with guys like Lang and Sitton, who Green Bay obviously used to have locking down the guard spots. He mentioned those two, Banks and Belton, in the same breath as Lang and Sitton, which would obviously, to me, indicate that they're going to try him at guard first. And that's why I think that pick may kind of signal like, yeah, maybe Jordan Morgan is going to kind of be built up to be the left tackle in 2026 and beyond, which, again, if you're letting Rasheed go and you're starting Morgan, I would be hard pressed not to be drafting a left tackle in next year's draft, just as insurance, though. White009 says Amos left the board before our pick. He did not. Amos did not leave the board before our pick. Our meaning, I assume, Green Bay. He did not. He was still available when the Packers were on the clock in round 2. And he went 7 picks after. Here, I'll bring it up. Belton was picked at 54, and Amos got picked at 61st. Now, maybe you're saying Amos left the board before round 3, and maybe that's where Green Bay had him valued. Then, okay, I guess what you're saying in terms of drafting Savion. But, yeah, Amos was still on the board if they wanted him in the second round instead of Belton. But clearly, they obviously really liked Belton to take him that early. I'm going to get to round 7, and we're going to talk about a few drafts as well while I'm working through these comments. Yeah, Savion's a big dude who might be able to block. Yeah. Yes, as you said, defense wasn't much in the cornerback class. That's why passing on Amos was surprising. Yeah, because I felt like he was one of the like truly elite corners in this draft who I think had such a high upside. So that shift, and Mike and I have talked about this, and why we really liked Loveland for 23, because he would change the calculus of the offense and let Green Bay live in that sort of blurred lines between 11 and 12 personnel that I think would be really exciting to watch. We have to unfortunately watch that in Chicago this year, but obviously they also added Burden. So they have 3 wide receivers in Loveland. So maybe they're not going to end up doing that, but maybe they will, to kind of ease Burden in, but we'll see. Appreciate you, Omer. Appreciate you checking out the Golden video. I saw you commented on that, and I don't know if I don't remember if I've gotten back to you, but if I haven't, I will, and I will check that. So, yeah, I'm glad you've enjoyed it, Omer. We're going to definitely, last year and years prior, I've been a little bit slow to get them out and going, but that's not going to be the case this time because I'm going to try to capitalize on all the post-draft hype from a lot of these guys. So that's the goal. Joseph says, I think Goot wanted Golden Amos Belton. But he must have known that Belton wasn't going to last, and he wanted Belton a little bit more. And yeah, I think that's fair. Omer says I'm not as optimistic with this one as opposed to the past 3. I think it's fair because I'm sure when you see the pass rush kind of faltering down the stretch and in the postseason, you want to see that addressed a little earlier. But yeah, Chicago is my backyard if that's what you are saying there, Drew. Yeah, Brian, I will get to you on Lippy very soon. Yeah, there was a chance that Green Bay could go blocking tight end. I think, yeah, Robbie Oots, I think, did Seattle grab him? But blocking tight end is kind of Savion. I know Omer's saying Musgrave doesn't really block very well at 6'6". I think he does in like zone blocking where he has to like kind of cross the face of guys to get in better position, but he's not going to be very effective in terms of pushing guys around. He's going to kind of more be like a space occupier, right, with more zone stuff. And if they're going to go to more gap stuff, then it becomes hard to have Musgrave be heavily involved there. So yeah, Savion does like to block. And again, he's bigger guy, so that should be asked more of him for sure. My thoughts on the smaller edge players Green Bay took was to counter all the running QBs. Yeah, and I think it's also like, again, when Halfley gets into it, we'll be breaking this down a lot more over on the Weekly Cheddar channel. And for those who aren't subbed over there, I'm going to throw that in the description very, very quickly and in the comments, because we're obviously going to talk about these guys extremely, extremely in depth when we go to live next over there. So make sure all the Pack friends in the chat, you guys are subscribed over there at the link I just put down in the description. Drew says, can't believe Amos went to the Commanders. Yeah, that was tough. Okay. You're referring to round 3. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure Amos was very high on Green Bay's board. I guess just behind Belton, when it came to their day 2 board. So, or their board when day 2 started. Obviously, it's not a different board. It's the same one. But, yeah, I mean, where is he? Sorrell's not super small, right? He's more of he's on the lower end, right, of what Green Bay has in the room. But he isn't the smallest. He's 256. So you got guys like obviously Jalen Walker, who's 243, who went to Atlanta. You got Pierce, who's 245, who went to Atlanta. Ezaraku is 248. Mike Green, 251. So you do have these smaller rushers, and I think Sorrell being, a little bit bigger in the 256 range. I think Kingsley Enagbare hovers between 258 and 260. So he's not the biggest, that's for sure, but he isn't at the very least the smallest, which is a good thing. You got guys like Will Anderson, who's 240, Nolan Smith, who kind of plays edge for Philly at 238. Like there are smaller guys, but I agree he isn't the biggest, right? He's not JTT, he's not Landon Jackson, he's not the A&M guy like Stewart, and what Scorton played at A&M. Obviously, Scorton's at the 257 now. I do think he would have been a nice fit for Green Bay as well, but yeah, he's definitely smaller, but it's not the smallest he could be in terms of the edge position. Loveland sucks. Now he's with the Bears. Don't care. Yeah, the undrafted free agents. Yeah, pass rush and cornerback room have you concerned. That's fair. Yeah, and I think nickel has to be better this year. Hopefully Bullard makes that happen and takes that step. So, Packers should have drafted Besh to be the blocking tight end. Hey, could do pretty similar things to Musgrave. I mean, it's facts. White 009, it's really funny. Fans called for wide receiver. We got 2, and some people still complain because we went 3 rounds on offense. Yeah, I think the offense played better. The defense played better than the offense late in the season. So I think that's kind of where I think Green Bay was at. Let me go through round 7, and I've got a cool meme that someone posted. But turn notifications to all. There you go. Yeah, he does lack some length. He isn't the smallest, but yeah, got a good RAS as well. So Sorrell has been heavy as 258, and Enagbare was 258. So yeah, I wanted all defense. Omer, that's fair. That's fair. That's very fair. I think functional strength and power is a big part of Sorrell's game. No question about it. LaFleur being happy with the offense picks. That's good. Let's talk about round 7 really fast, and then I promise we'll go to Green Bay's, and then we're going to talk some winners, and then we'll probably get out of here relatively soon after that. But some guys I liked in round 7. Atlanta taking Jack Nelson. I think he could play on the right side. He could be a guy who takes over at right tackle for McGarry long term. So I liked that one a lot. Cody Lindenberg has, I think, played as close to 240 as he has. He obviously slimmed down for the combine, but he's an interesting one for Vegas where it's like, yeah, we need to get a bigger running back. I like the player, Damian Martinez, right? I think he's scheme versatile at running back, but Seattle having 2 guys ahead of him on the depth chart in Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, that was a little disappointing to see the landing spot there. I really like Keaton Crawford for Arizona. Was one of my favorite safeties on day 3. Keontae Hamilton's intriguing from Rutgers to Houston as well. Curtis Rourke to San Francisco, I think, fires the imagination. Some people said his comp was Purdy, which I find interesting. Brashard Smith, the Chiefs trading up to go get him. Former receiver turned running back. Very intriguing offensive piece. Quinn Ewers to Miami is funny. LaQuint Allen, Jacksonville, pass blocker, pass catcher. Change of pace, but they've gone a little light at running back with Tootin and Allen. So that'll be interesting to monitor as well. Phil Maffa, that's right, Dallas. Dallas got the thunder a little bit more with Maffa in terms of how he plays than with Jaden Blue. So they kind of did do a decent job of filling the running back room late in the draft. I like Konate Mumfield from Pitt. I think he's an advanced technician as a route runner. He isn't the most explosive, and I think that's what maybe gets him to trouble more in the league is like he has the plan of attack and he can do everything to do his best to create separation as a route runner, and he's really crisp in terms of the route break transitions and all of that. But the lack of explosiveness may hurt him a little bit, and that's obviously why he's down here, and the production wasn't outstanding. But I do like Mumfield, and I think the last one for me that was like really, really intriguing, and I think he was the last one picked. Yeah, the 25th running back pick, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. A lot of people ticked that he didn't make it to undrafted free agency. Commanders did need a running back, so I liked that one a good bit. Lindenberg did not play to his testing. Yeah, no, but he could still, I think, be involved in what, he's a bigger linebacker, and I think that's what you're going to have to need down the stretch. What's going on, Jonathan? Good to see you. Welcome in. Wouldn't be surprised if Walker gets traded. I don't know if I'd be trading him at this point. Maybe you tag and trade him next offseason, perhaps, but I would not trade him now. Would have been more interesting to trade him before the draft. Anyway, I feel like you got to play it out. I think Walker's done a nice job at left tackle. Cornerback room has Nixon. Says O'Mara played a half year on the outside. Hobbs is supposed to play outside. Has played primarily slot. He did have a year where he played more on the perimeter in Vegas, and he did play a lot of perimeter at Illinois as somebody who went there. Brian didn't like Crawford's film. White009 says defense played well. Yeah, I think so. Only the front four underperformed. But yeah, it could have been a Rebrovich thing. It obviously could have been a Van Ness is in his third system in 3 years thing. Wyatt didn't stay healthy enough to really be able to attack in that defense. And maybe Brinson's going to kind of be kind of a glue for this unit, perhaps. Omer says he hopes Kalen King gets a shot. Oh, yeah, Zeke Biggers was a good one. Brian, I know, was big on Corey Black, the corner from Oklahoma State going to the Giants. The Giants definitely need some corners in that room. There's no question about that. Omer says I love Halfley, and the defense was much better, and that's why I see. Yeah, I think a lot of us would have been cool to see. It would have been nice to see them add a kind of a level up player at one of those positions, right? Like a true eraser, perhaps at corner, or a true like number one, get after the QB edge rusher that was kind of a dominant force. But again, James Pierce had all the production in the world at edge, but at 245, he was just never going to be a Green Bay guy playing defensive end. And they want guys who can play all three downs, right? That's the goal, which is, again, it's a tough thing because, you would like your pass rush to be better, but the run D, in theory, should be better because you're making that shift. Relax on the cornerback room. I know Joseph's big on that. But that's it for the round 7 selections. Let's pull up Green Bay, but I want to bring this up for Green Bay really fast because I think this is very hilarious. Cheesehead TV posted this. What was it, last night? Saying Packers receivers, the urgency comment was about us. Goody always has been. I thought that was super funny. Was a really big fan of that. Watson, Dobbs, Reed, and Wicks have all been put on notice with 2 receiver selections. I thought that was truly, truly hilarious from them. So I liked that a lot. I really, really liked that. So that was fun. Cheesehead TV getting in on it. That was a good time. Joseph says would rather have Golden than any of those edges. Yeah, I just think when Stewart and Michael Williams got picked, right? I think that was kind of like the nail in the coffin of like for Goody, like, all right, we got to pivot. We got to pivot elsewhere. Like we're not taking one of the lighter edge rushers, right? We can look at maybe JTT in the second round as a possibility, right? But and I think there was one other guy who Landon Jackson perhaps, but maybe they didn't like him as much. Maybe they thought he was a little stiffer than the guys they had, which I would tend to agree with. But yeah, obviously it pivoted, and when Harmon comes off the board for you as well, it's kind of like, yeah, well, now we got to pivot. We're going corner maybe to Amos or Starks, and maybe we play him at corner. We're going receiver like that. Going through the mock draft again and like seeing how teams were placed, and if Golden was going to go in the first, he was going to go to Green Bay or Buffalo, which I find very interesting. Yeah, Ty is really good at that stuff. Really, really good at it. But yeah, I think when I look at Green Bay's draft, again, I'm a pretty big fan of Golden. I don't know if he's ever going to be like the truly, truly elite player in the league. I think he's at the very least ascending, though, at the receiver position, which is important, right? As a true junior coming out in the draft, and really caught stride and I think there's been some really good points with maybe the lack of production where, again, he had drops his sophomore year at Houston, right? And that was a problem. But he comes to Texas, right? It's learning the playbook, getting up to speed. And I think the NIL process and all of these transfers, you might see some slow starts with some of these transfer guys who then start to ascend when you get to the back half of the season, kind of like Golden did. And you go, okay, so that's kind of some of these production metrics might have some of their warts in the coming seasons because of the NIL stuff. So that I think could, that could be something to monitor. I still believe in, I love having all that data, and I think it's a really cool thing to have all of that. But I do think that there could be kind of a wrench thrown in some of it, at least with the NIL structure and a lot of these transfers. So very fun. Rock Bass says half had the ability to use the player strengths, players rather than just having all players perform on defense. So kind of play to the strengths of guys. Yeah. Top 5 in no order on Green Bay's room is Dobbs, Reed, Wicks, Golden, Savion. Yeah. At this point, Miko Hardman could get cut outright, even as this kind of, again, he was a 1-year signee, and maybe, Green Bay was like, that's prep for if the draft doesn't go how we want it to. But yeah, Heath and Melton. Yeah, they got some work to do. They really have some work to do. I think one of them makes it, but probably gets sent down when Watson's ready. So, but if he's not ready, then obviously they're there for the full season. But it's going to be one of them at the best. Drew said when Jacksonville traded up, I'd hoped DTs would fall, but then the Browns took Graham. Yeah, I was wondering if the Browns were going to do the Armand Membu thing of like, yeah, we need tackle right now, and we could use it, so let's do that. And they didn't. They didn't do that. So then it was kind of like, okay, well, yeah, we're kind of back to square one. And then when Grant goes to Miami, it's kind of like, this is not good. I had defensive tackle penned to Arizona quite a few times. It just happened to be Harmon and not Nolan. And yeah, and I knew Pittsburgh was heavily considering Harmon. So that was, yeah, it was tough, those first 4 going off the board. Yeah, I think Green Bay will still be active in the free agent market. Jonathan says he liked the Oliver pick. Hope he can give us some Sam linebacker snaps. Yeah, I think there was a kind of a collective agreement in our kind of Packers Twitter group chat about like, yeah, this is kind of what is essentially going to happen. He's probably going to do in some base looks, be that Sam linebacker, and then if you want to get crazy on 3rd and 7s and 3rd and 8s, you go, hey, go hunt the QB, which I think he can do. So. Dana meant Crawford only played safety 1 year. Okay, yeah, I got you. Okay. Yeah, Tamari DK went to the Titans. Yeah, it was a little early. With Iomanner and Royals and Horton and even like guys like Badger and Armstrong. I don't think Armstrong got picked. Has Armstrong landed anywhere? Can anyone let me know if he's been signed yet? Tyler, what's going on? Says Kobe Bryant went to the Falcons as a UDFA. That's pretty nice for Atlanta. Atlanta on paper had a pretty good week. So, yeah, to get Bryant as a UDFA, just tell him to pack on a few pounds, and you really might have something. Love his ability to match off the line of scrimmage. He can play physical, and he's very opportunistic with the ball in the air. Let's see. Omer says, wonder if Goot would have taken Harmon in round 1 had the Steelers drafted a QB. I think so, but again, also we probably would have had to get past the Chargers, who I think might have still been in on it as well. So I think that's noteworthy too. Like they would have probably still had to get past one more team, because the Chargers seemed like they were trying to move out of the first. Them and Green Bay, I think, were having heavy conversations of like, yeah, can we move back? Because I think because of the Harmon pick, and it wasn't Sanders at 21. So White 009 saw something that's saying Golden didn't play to his speed because most of the balls were underthrown, but if he balls out, if you were good between Dobbs and Watson, who are you approaching? I'm approaching Watson personally. I know the injuries have not been good, but I think his step up in year 3, plus again that size and speed, and one drop last year is so good, and I think it allows Golden to not just be a part of stretching the field, but it lets him kind of do everything in the route tree. Golden becomes your X, Watson becomes your field stretching Z, and you still have a lot of talent behind those guys that can be interchangeable. So if I were bringing one back, to me, it's no question it's Watson. Yeah, Brian, I do remember hearing that the Browns said, Garrett, you can have your pick of who you want, and he picked Graham. So again, Golden I think is fast, but I don't know if he's 4.29 fast. So yeah. Joseph asks, does the tendency of all offense chipping the edges affect Belton be the selection, a second true modern tackle? I feel like he's going to be a guard. The way Goody was talking about Banks and Belton made it seem like they're going to be interior guys who really push the envelope in terms of the vertical running game and just, again, some of the combos and just, but also just, we're moving heaven and earth at the point of attack type of thing. It does seem like that is the direction they're going. Yeah, having a QB that isn't yours especially is going to be a big difference for him. Oh, the Dolphins signed Armstrong? Oh, I like that for them. That's good. Yeah, Armstrong, analytically speaking, very nice profile. A little bit, I think he's on the older side, but other than that, pretty impressive stuff. And I really liked what he did as a boundary receiver. So Omer says, yes, Atlanta grabbing 2 top pass rushers was nice for them. Yeah, let's go to Atlanta's draft while we're chatting about some of these teams here. Again, the one thing that I would be concerned about, again, they grabbed 2 safeties. Bowman's, pretty instinctive, kind of a guy near the line of scrimmage. They get the playmaker on the back end, the post safety in Watson. Yeah, they add 2 pass rushers. What I will say is the they're pretty light at edge, right? 243 and 245. I'd be running at them every single time. I'd be running towards the edge, right? When you attack Parsons in the run game, he struggles, and that's where really Green Bay that Watson breakout game where they came back and won. Like they ran at Parsons all game, and it was. It was kind of jarring. It was like, okay, yeah, these light edge rushers, they're going to struggle. And Dallas has Parsons and Ezeraku now. I'd be running at them all the time. So, again, I think if Atlanta gets into, and I think, this is a good draft to get pass rushers. They needed any sort of juice at pass rusher. So, like, if Atlanta can get to 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, they're going to be a problem. For sure. They're going to be a problem. Walker and Pierce doing things that they can do, cross the face with inside moves, a ton of athleticism, a ton of great change of direction and quicks, and especially Walker with how he can kind of work tempo a little bit, and Pierce rushing on the high side. Like, that's going to cause a lot of problems if you can get to the 3rd and long, obvious passing situations. That's, though, my question of, like, can they get there consistently enough to unleash both of these players? Because it's funny, I did a podcast with the draft professors and did a 2-round mock. And then I did with the 2-round mock Juice, and I did on Wednesday. I'm like, is it crazy for Atlanta to double dip at pass rusher? And I was like, I don't think it is, as long as they get 2 different types. The problem is I feel like they have 2 of the same type now. And I know Zach Harrison kind of does that Leo stuff where he's playing a little bit of kind of head up on the tackle type of thing. And so he's kind of more of the run defender. But I think they just have to find a way to get to 3rd and 8. If they get to 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, Atlanta's pass rush is going to be a problem. Walker and Pierce will be unleashed to their fullest capacity. And that will be very exciting. So, and yes, Omer, definitely. They needed it. It's just a question of can they get to the scenarios where it will be most effective for them. Let's see. Dana, were you surprised the 2nd and 3rd groups of edge rushers ended up dropping to the 3rd and 4th? Yeah, again, I think the pass rushers that dropped, right, again, and this is kind of that conversation. We can go through it here. Let's go by picks. The first round, right, and we kind of talked about it, but again, it's this pendulum swing, and I think it is worth talking about in a longer discussion, right? Carter's a special player, so he goes. But then you have a run defending edge in Mykel Williams, which he has upside, but he's a phenomenal run defender right now. Atlanta needed the juice, so they go get him. But then the next guy, 2 out of 4 are run defending edge rushers, right? Run defending defensive ends, I guess, as you want to call them, 4-3 ends. Then you go get Pierce, the pass rusher, right? But I think when you look at, like, you know, teams kind of avoiding, like, these guys who don't defend the run super well, like Ezeraku's too darn productive not to, you know, consider him in the 2nd round. But again, Dallas is going to have that same problem. Like, you can probably run the ball, you know, stretch plays kind of at the edge rushers, and they're going to have a problem with it. Like JT going this early, I think most people would be like, that's a little early. But again, he's a run defending power edge. Scorton has still some of that in him as well. But then you get Oladejo, who's a little bit more of a project. But yeah, it seems like O-line got heavy in the 2nd and 3rd rounds, and it kind of pushed edge down because I think teams, obviously, there is a massive need for offensive line that teams are going to just keep kind of hammering that because they need it. They need a bunch of it. And defensive tackle obviously had a lot of names, and maybe that pushed him down a little bit as well. But yeah, it was a little weird for sure. But I think some of the pass rushers, some of these edge guys are, again, just pass rushers for the most part only, and that's not going to give you as much value as getting kind of the 3-down guys with this sort of pendulum swing that we're talking about. Joseph saying Green Bay and the Chargers use every second on the clock. Yeah, it's because Philly was looking to move up for Campbell. They said that, I think, on their call with Campbell of like, man, we've been trying to go get you for the last hour. Because I think they were thinking that Tampa would take Campbell in the 1st. And so I think that's where it came around to like, okay, they're not taking Campbell. We can go get him. Like, nobody else is going to go after Campbell at that point. I think Philly knew, like, yeah, this is that if they don't pick him, we got to go get him. And it worked out for them. So yeah, oh, that's interesting. So the trade agreement was in place for LA and Philly. That's interesting. Would have been interesting to see if they just made the Hampton pick the Chargers did if they moved down to 32. So Rock Bass says Watson all the way over Dobbs. Yeah, I agree. You can kind of find the possession wide receiver every draft. Yeah. Lee says, what's a good golden comp for his upside? I know Mike threw out Jennings. I saw that at his peak. The comps that I've seen more of, I like the Brandon Cooks, Deontay Johnson mixture, I think can work. There was another name that was thrown out for him as a comp, and now I'm forgetting what it was. I don't know. There's Olave. There's a little Olave in there as well, I think, with Golden. But again, I don't think anything's truly perfect. Like there's a nice mixture of Deontay, Olave, and Brandon Cooks. I think with a lot of it of like, yeah, he's got that, important 40 time that people are going to look at. But So Turtle says, who do you think is going to be cut out of the 9 receivers? As long as Savion shows enough, right? Because he has all that speed and he's got plenty of size on top of it. I think that would, in my opinion, obviously push one of Melton or Miko Hardman out for sure, and maybe Heath is the other one, and they hang on to one of Melton or Hardman because of the speed. But again, if they believe in Golden speed too, like then they might think they have enough on the roster. If Savion shows enough where they can cut both of those guys and keep Malik Heath, I would tend to want to keep more speed because you still have Dobbs and Wicks and Reed who can operate and run a lot of stuff from the short and intermediate. But for sure, one of Melton and Hardman gets cut, and then again, it's going to come down to the other of those two or Heath for the other spots. So I don't know. That's it's going to be interesting. Drew says Seth McLaughlin and Jake Majors. Yeah, the center class, 2 UDFAs. Yes, Dana, they definitely did. They definitely did. Yeah. Oh, Majors signed with Tampa and McLaughlin signed with Cincy. Cincy needed McLaughlin for sure. Majors with Tampa is interesting too. Tyler Beatty is UDFA. That was another guy we talked about as a day 3 fit as well. Figure 6 make the opening 53 with Watson on pup. So yeah, it's going to be one of Heath, Melton, Hardman. It's just a question of like what do they want? Do they want more of the again reliable possession player? That's Heath. If they want a little more speed, I would presume they keep Melton around. But I think it's going to come down to Heath, Melton. I think Hardman's days are numbered unless they think he's the only one who's going to be a returner. That might be the thing that swings in his favor as well. So just depends on what they're thinking. Let's go to we talked about the Falcons, right? We discussed them. Bucks and Panthers did well. Let's go to Carolina first. Yeah, I think Carolina did a nice job. Again, 3 premium positions to start the draft. Excuse me. I've been talking straight. Hold on. Oh, the nice voice squeak there. It's been a long week. What have we been on for? We went 2.5. No, we went 3 hours on Wednesday. 3 hours on Wednesday, 4.5, 4.5. 2 more after the 4.5 last night, and then now we've gone 90 minutes tonight. So it's a lot. That's a lot in 4 days. So running out of gas. Finish. Yeah, but no, again, 3 premium positions, T-Max, Orton, and Uman Mielen, I think is a really nice start, especially if you're in the 3-4, right? You're going to be able to let Scourton attack more as a pass rusher rather than a run defender, which I know he wants to do. And Uman Mielen has the bend flexibility, loves to go to the inside spin, a little bit of ghost move in there as well. Like he can tee off as well. And I think Cam Jackson might be able to help anchor the middle with kind of these guys being able to flank from the outside. Mitchell Evans is intriguing. I think he should be able to push Tremble, who they extended, which I think was a choice. And then ETN, I think, is, again, another guy who can kind of further add to that room. Obviously, Brooks getting hurt again sucks. We really hate that for him. And hopefully he can be healthy again at some point. But back-to-back tears of that thing is tough. So they're going to have Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, and Trevor Etienne. So, and then Jimmy Horn, a little bit of speed, probably going to do some stuff in the return game. But yeah, this is a pretty nice draft for Carolina. I liked Tampa's. I know they added 2 receivers, and some people were making jokes about like Jalen McMillan sitting here like, what did I do wrong? But yeah, Tampa gets 2. Again, I don't know if Roberts is going to play edge. He probably won't for Tampa. Imagine he might play some 3-4 end because he's 290. But I know he was somebody on Green Bay's radar, probably at 159, and they just took him right in front. David Walker gives you some productivity on the edge as well because they kind of have a lot of 1-year deals hanging out there at edge rusher. And I got to love Morrison if he's healthy. Really great man cover corner, which, again, if you're going to blitz a lot in the bowl scheme, you'd love to have that. And Parrish is really good in the slot. Really physical as well. And then nothing wrong with a swing at Tez there. So literally 2 wide receivers, 2 corners, 2 edge rushers, like maybe a defensive lineman, I guess you could say. But that's a lot of premium positions in a draft. And You're never going to get faulted for that. So I do like that for Tampa Bay. Yeah, Lee, I think we're all in on this of like how Tesla goes that early relative to Armstrong getting undrafted was interesting. Obviously, Tesla's athleticism, he blocks and he doesn't drop anything, I guess, was the selling point. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. Minnesota signed Beatty. That's nice for them. Joseph says, being here in Atlanta, most are annoyed with what they gave up. Yeah, I imagine so, right? Giving up a 26-1 is probably not great. Yeah. It's a lot to give up to go get Pierce, especially when you had already that kind of type of pass rusher in tow in the draft class already. Whoa. Hello. Rock Bass. $27.99 Canadian dollars. I don't know what much that is, but listen, we ain't worried about how much it is. We just appreciate the dono, Rock Bass. I appreciate you. I remember, I think you kind of found the channel late in the draft stream last year. I think we kind of got to meet you. So that was I glad that you're here. Glad you've been around for the draft stuff. Hopefully you get to stick around. Kind of for all the draft breakdowns, which we're going to have here. And hopefully I don't remember if you're one of the ones who said you did follow the Weekly Cheddar channel, but that's another one that you should check out as well, because there's going to be a live show over there, probably even further breaking down the Packers selections. And we're going to have some stuff over there as well that probably won't be over here as much, just because, again, this is a little more wide range. I want this to be a little more kind of extending out to kind of more of the league, but obviously still enough of a Packers focus where you guys, the core base who's always here in the live shows because you guys are awesome, can continue to be here as well. So yeah, obviously that split is maybe a little weird, but it's I think to help stuff. So I appreciate that. It's $20. Any amount is appreciated, Rock Bass. So I thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. And it says, really respect the draft knowledge and endurance. We do our best with the endurance stuff. I did long distance running growing up, but this is a different type of endurance. It's not it's not quite what you'd think. You'd kind of think like, DJ and Rich Eisen and Charles Davis, they're out there for 8 hours just talking. Like that can't be super draining. And then you kind of go through this, which I've done now kind of for 9 years, and it's like, this week can get very exhausting, and hopefully they got more sleep than I did, those guys on NFL Network. I don't think Mel Kiper got a lot of sleep the way he was talking about Shador. But yeah, Rock Bass, thank you so much. And I know Omer said 5 a.m. here in France. I'm out. I'm glad you'll be looking for the breakdowns. Appreciate you, Omer, for sticking around until 5 a.m. But yeah, Rock Bass, that's very generous. Thank you so much. And Rock Bass, I will say the Substack is going to be something that will be popping off a little bit more. It's going to have, again, more free draft and NFL breakdowns and content over there. I guess Golden and Savion are going to be a part of what I'm working on over there this week. But like landing spots and fits and how each receiver kind of fits into where they were drafted and signed to. So that might be something to check out as well. But again, the donations are much appreciated. I know Drew didn't really get to shout you out as much last night for the donations during the second round live stream, kind of because there was, again, more back and forth and there was a kind of an audience crossover, but that didn't get overlooked either, and this doesn't either. So, again, really appreciate that from Rock Bass there. Had to go down to that right away. So, and White saying, I think you answered it. I think that's why we drafted an O-line in the second round, because the Texans were a little bit after us, just waiting. And I mean, probably a lot of teams. I mean, the Bears took one a few picks after as well in Trapilo, and then it kind of, I think after that, it kind of went off a little bit more of a cliff. So, yeah, people weren't waiting around at O-line. They can't. Joseph doing Olave and Jennings. Santonio Holmes for Golden is an interesting one. Tim Brown. Omer said Steve Smith ranked Golden as top receiver in the draft. I think you can make that argument like non-Hunter division. I think Hunter's on a different level than the rest of these guys. In terms of like the receivers, and this is how I did it, I still had McMillan at 2. I had Hunter at 1. I had Golden 3rd and Ibuka 4th. But I think Golden and Ibuka are going to come in and give instant impacts. And that's why I think Tampa Bay, this is really nice. And I was kind of confused for those who were here on draft night of, I was kind of like, wow, they took Ibuka. That's weird. But again, with Godwin coming back from injury, but then again, why are you paying Godwin that much coming off of injury if you're concerned about him playing or not? Whatever. Anyway, but Ibuka should give you a lot of reps. You can ease Godwin back in and still potentially even play McMillan. Ibuka might get some Z reps as well. But yeah, I'm glad that White brought up the Falcons, Panthers, and Bucks because it's hard not to. I think Steve Palazzolo talked about this where it's kind of like we've reached a point where it's hard to see like truly bad drafts. Now they're gonna be there. They're gonna be there. By the end of year 3, there are gonna be some that are just disasters because there always are. But it does seem like there are teams don't go super out there anymore, even though sometimes once in a while you'll kind of see that, right? I think there is one team we're going to talk about them that I think did not do a great job. But it does seem like the teams are kind of more disciplined and more tactical in their approaches now. So, any steals in the NFC North on day 3? Yeah, I mentioned a few. Again, I think from Green Bay's perspective, let's go to Chicago first. They're first in the alphabetical order. I think there's a good chance that Monungai is one for them, the running back from Rutgers, because again, they didn't draft any other running back. And so they'll have Swift and Roshan Johnson as their two guys in front of him. He could usurp them for snaps. I was a big Roshan Johnson fan, and he really hasn't shown much yet. Za Frazier could be another one. And again, a smaller school corner, but has some pretty good instincts and ball skills to boot. So he could be a nice find for them. So that's probably for the Bears. I know Detroit had a couple I liked quite a bit. On day 3, Frazier for sure. Frazier, Hassanin, and even Dan Jackson, who I think could be, he's not a great tackler, so that's maybe a concern. Probably a big one. So Frazier and Hassanin, I think, are the 2 for Detroit that I really, really liked on day 3. Frazier especially. They got Ratledge and Frazier. That's nuts. That stinks for Green Bay fans. That stinks. And I think Minnesota, I talked about it, I think, a little bit, but I liked Kobe King and Bartholomew back to back. Like, I think Bartholomew gives you something a little bit as an inline player with some pass catching chops as well. But Kobe King, block deconstructor, not many linebackers you can say that about nowadays. That's for sure. So yeah, Brock Bass from Ontario, Canada. Very nice. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I appreciate you watching all the way from Ontario. Oh yeah, because Green Bay is going to try out Taylor Elgersma from Laurier, right? Yeah, he was down at the Senior Bowl. Actually, they brought him down for that, and man, dude's got a cannon. I will say he does have a ton of velocity. He had I think other than Milrow, he was that thing was spinning down there. But yeah, he was down there, in Mobile. It looked like maybe a little overwhelming for him. Which again, you're coming kind of from Canada. Maybe I don't remember if the rules are still different up there, because I know the CFL it is a little bit. So I don't know if there's kind of a difference still when they bring them up through the high school and college thing as well in football. But it kind of felt like maybe things were spinning a little bit with like how the practices were structured and running an offense that was maybe, seemed to be a little fast for him. But, again, developmental player, really excited to see if he can stick on a roster through the summer and through the fall, because that'd be really cool. But let's see here. Do you think Belton was the last tackle of the tier? Let me check. Here. Yeah, Ursery goes, and then Belton went, and then Trapilo. I think so. Let me go to round 3. Again, I liked Logan Brown a lot, but I understood that there were concerns, injuries plus kind of stuff at Wisconsin that dropped him. So probably, yeah, I mean, you can see it. Like Malum, who I think, again, they list him as guard. I think he's playing guard. Emory Jones, I also think is playing guard. And so I think Caleb Rogers is playing guard as well. So Grant is kind of the next tackle who went 99th after the Bears took Trapilo, 61st, 62nd? Neither of those. 56. So from 56 to like almost 100. Yeah, I would say so. I think Trapilo was the last one. And then the drop off happened to like Grant and those guys. So oh, okay, they are CFL rules in high school and college. Okay, so it is a little bit different in terms of how they're lined up, and so yeah, I think that maybe was a little bit much for him, but I think like again he throws it. He's got some good velocity on the football, so that'd be very fun to see if he could stick around. So some people found like film of his, I didn't. Some people got some of his, I didn't, but. Yeah, he could sling that down the field very well. Very, very well. Yeah. Dana says, what do you mean Steve Keim isn't drafting small school guys every year anymore? You don't really think about that, but yeah, I mean, this is Mississippi, Michigan, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Nevada. Going heavy, Arizona. I like what Arizona did a lot, too. Simon's a good coverage backer. They're trying to throw a lot of stuff at DB. I mean, Nolan Johnson Birch is sick, especially if Birch reaches his potential. That would be something. Yeah. That's some fun stuff for Arizona. They didn't pick they picked one guard, but it was all defense after that. Jonathan Gannon trying to make things go crazy. No, I think Swinson had character stuff. Pretty sure. That's why. I thought someone said that on Swinson, but yeah, I agree. The 3-4 line the 3-4 outside linebacker thing, yeah, is not a big enough reason for him to fall either. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think he was more talented than the guys even who went ahead of him, and that's no slight to Sorrell and Kennard, but I do think he had a little bit more talent there. But again, Kennard and Sorrell and others have, I think, a little bit more power to their game, right, in terms of holding up against the run. So there's a little bit of that trade-off between them. But yeah, it had to be something that we don't really know about that contributed to Swinson's fall, because we were talking about him a lot for day 2 as a possibility, right? And Brett Coleman and EJ Snyder were on Stock Exchange with Trevor and Connor and actually gave the Packers Swinson in the first. So, oh, there it is. LSU suspended Swinson for not meeting team standards. Whatever that means, that's potentially why. But he went to the Patriots, I think, and that was quite good. Did I miss any other questions up here? I want to make sure I didn't, because I want to get to all of you before we oh, don't show the broadcast. Oh yeah, Joseph asked, favorite of Green Bay's new front 7 guys. I think a lot of people are going to say Sorrell. I like Brinson. I know Brian Maffey, who was in here earlier, might still be here and just kind of chilling versus typing in the chat, but he kind of was like, yeah, this might be their new nose tackle. And he's like 6'4", 6'5", and 315. And I will say the pad level and the extension that he was showing at the point of attack, I'm not minding that at all if that's the plan. And obviously they brought in Stackhouse, and that's another guy who might be able to do that. I think he was sitting around 320. So that could be the plan. Georgia guys at nose tackle. So I think Brinson, although it's close. I like all 3. but I'm gonna say Brinson. All right, let's get to a couple things really fast. Oh yeah, that's what we didn't talk about. Rock Bass brought it up. Appreciate you reminding me. Yeah, Sorrell going to Green Bay to take his walk on day 3 through that tunnel and on stage was so cool. And obviously, yeah, the raw emotion. I really haven't seen all of it, but I know he kind of said like what my parents did for me to get into the position. I gotta go watch that in full. It sounds like it was extremely moving, and I know he was emotional about it, so that's got to be really cool. And I know he's going to get a lot of fans very, very quickly. And you just got to love the fact that Green Bay drafts 2 guys from Texas coming in, so those guys are going to be tight in the locker room, and those guys supporting each other was really cool to see. Yeah, I was a big fan of that. I got to go rewatch it though. I saw just like kind of little bits and pieces for that. So yeah, Sorrell, I think, talk about a guy who's I think for sure going to be giving it his all. Not that others won't be, but like I think he's going to pour so much into this game. So, oh, Golden said he's going to buy land back that his family lost. That's cool too. These Texas guys, man, these Texas guys are some awesome dudes. And yeah, everything on Golden that I heard was, gosh, he's excellent in terms of the character and the leadership and just, you know, how he carries himself. It was all extremely, extremely positive. So I can't wait for him. I cannot wait for him. It would be a dream truly to sit here in the summer sometime and be able to talk ball on here with you guys with Golden about the receiver position and the ins and outs. Would be incredible. That right there would be a dream of mine to talk to him. Really, because I imagine it would be a blast, 1, and 2, just to hear him talk about, you know, how he approaches things off the line of scrimmage and, you know, not tipping your hand and all the stuff that goes into, you know, route depth and the steps you take to get to the break point and all the stuff that he does that is so good at the catch point. Like I would love to talk to him at some point about all this. Maybe I just got to go up to camp and see what I can do, but Sorrell's feels caught me off guard, had me misty-eyed. Won't lie. Wow, then that's going to be fun to watch in full then. Drew says we need to keep an eye on Texas in the future. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were talking potentially about like Broughton being a guy on day 2 that they might have considered. So, yeah, I think so. I think so. Man, we are all over the place with the words tonight. Big time show planet I'm in. I think most people would be if there was any chance I could get Golden on here. It's a dream, but yeah, you got to set some goals. So that's one of our goals this year. Certainly. So, whoops. Do I still have it here? Yeah. Okay. White 009 looking at draft Green Bay. I see people saying after the Golden pick, everything else was a dumpster fire. That all Goot did was draft traitsy guys after. I don't know. I don't think. I mean, Savion certainly a traitsy swing, but I don't think Belton's like a super traitsy swing. I think Belton's a like high floor power player pick, and I think the 3 guys on defense in the front 7 are also that, and then Robinson's got. I mean, I think they all have high end traits, but like they're also like got a higher floor. So I think I feel like that can only be directed at Savion. Yeah, I don't think anything else is like a massive swing at anything. I think I was concerned because Green Bay usually does it once every year, and obviously it's a lot of the time it's been in the first round, right? And so we get kind of like, oh dang, he did that again. But I mean, in the 3rd for Savion, that's totally fine to take a traits-based swing there, right? Like for sure. So yeah, I think other than Savion, I definitely do not agree with that. Yeah. Is length Sorrell's only big knock? Yeah, 32.25 inch arm length. Yeah, that's really probably the biggest thing that would have you concerned. Drew says, watch Sorrell and tell me that guy isn't refined. Same with Oliver, too. Oliver's got some great moves. So, let's see here. Coach Len, welcome back in. Says, I'm not sure if we talked about this. Here we go. Hold on. Bring it back up here. Did KC jump Green Bay for Knoll in the third, causing us to pivot to Savion? I don't know. From those who I've talked to on it, like obviously I think from our perspective, yes, having a guy like Knoll would have been awesome. But I'm not sure with the arm length that they were going to ask him to play on the perimeter, right? Because it's like I think he's like 30.25 or something like that in terms of the arm length. So that I don't know if that was the case or not. I thought Ransaw was going to be in play as well, and maybe they thought he was going to be available in the fourth, but I don't think. Yeah, maybe they were going to go outside the thresholds. And again, I think someone said this. Drew said they sacrificed some measurements this draft. Certainly a little bit. Yeah, I mean, obviously Belton's a lot bigger. Golden's maybe a little bit slight for them in the first. And obviously Sorrell and Oliver aren't really their types at edge. So they kind of did kind of take it to us a little bit of like, they're going to be more rigid and all that. And they weren't. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about Knoll. That's a great question. Again, if they were willing to sacrifice some measurements for bigger guys or lighter guys on the edge, right, then maybe they were willing to sacrifice for a player like Knoll. Heck, I would have for sure with how good he is. But tough to say. Tough to say. What White0009 text says, lovely program going. Staff was saying in the interview with other Texas guys who they love working with that Sorrell, constantly came up. Okay, so yeah, I mean, like Drew said, this is and here too with with White0009 bringing it up about like what the staff was saying, like maybe looking for that connection in the future. So and Texas always has a pretty high recruiting class. So I don't remember how many guys went back for them. They certainly had a lot drafted this year. Maybe they got a corner or two. Obviously Barron and Makuba came out. Sorrell, Broughton, Collins, both tackles, Banks and Williams, Helm, Bond, Golden, Blue. They certainly lost a lot, but they can reload. So yeah, Coach, I'm not sure about that one or not. That'd be something for Goot that would have to be answered there. Dana said I got to ask Michael Wilson about release packages. And he explained that in the NFL, to get to the depth he needs to on time, he can't use the exotic stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of I assume a lot of split releases and speed releases where you're just going. Like the speed release isn't even, I don't think is even squaring. It's more of like, I think kind of pivoting to go one direction or the other. And then the split one, you just kind of square up and go. So yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's very timing based out there. And yeah, it's hard to throw some of those 4-steppers in, but you can usually, like Cooper Kupp has talked about, the 2-step. And I shared a clip, and I think one of them is in there in that Matthew Golden video, where there's one of two things happening in it. Where one of Golden's reps, there's a guy in motion comes past him to kind of make him almost a slot guy, but the corner's up on him at the line of scrimmage, and Golden's either setting him up with a 2-step release to get that free release in order to win an outbreaker, or he adjusts perfectly on the fly to the Georgia defender that kind of almost read steps to the inside. So either way, I think usually want to go as quickly as you can, but you can throw in the 2-step if you need to, as you've kind of maybe been setting it up. But yeah, the 4-step, all that stuff, that nonsense we saw at the Senior Bowl just is not going to fly. Like it can maybe fly if you're running like red zone whip routes a little bit, but yeah, unless you have like insane acceleration skills, it's a really good point of you can't just hang out and about by the line of scrimmage. Oh, and Dana says, yeah, because he had so many of those complicated releases in the Senior Bowl work. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, maybe not, Drew. Passing on Amos is kind of a pretty decent hint of like not being in at corner. So I haven't watched a ton of Oliver yet. So I'm that'll be fun to kind of get a really full picture. So also could have hit Harrison in the first. Yeah, Harrison was skinny, but again, Joseph, they said, at least Harrison said, his camp said he was up to 193. So that would have been enough, I think. Just enough, but enough. Coach Len says teams were high on Belton. Yeah, clearly he was in that next tier, not in the next, in the same tier with Ursary and Trapilo. And so, yeah, I mean, if he wasn't getting to round 3 and they really wanted him, I mean, that's all you need to know right there, right? So, what was the reason for Ivy falling out of the draft? I presumably because here, let me go get this. I would presume it's because of this, but again, it isn't everything. But I know that this is not ideal. This is probably part of the reason, at the very least, of like, okay, he's kind of in the tweener range a little bit. 274, maybe not as much, where you can probably play him at DN, but like, this is not ideal for an edge rusher where athleticism is kind of fundamental to success. So that might be what it is. Rock Bass says, seems like the explosive athletes were choices over the bigger names and seems pretty standard. For Goot, yeah, for sure. If you're not an elite athlete, it's often not it's just how it goes. Yeah, and again, a lot of the time the elite athletes, the best players are still elite athletes, but yeah, some of the big names, sometimes if they're not the best ones, you're kind of like, well, then they got to win purely on like technique, instincts. But again, the safety position I think is a little different in terms of like athletic testing versus instincts and trying to kind of weigh both of those. But yeah, I mean, there's a reason a lot of the greater players, you look back on the RAS and the scores are really high because they're really good athletes in game and in testing. Yeah. Joseph says Hafley and Covington seem to have a lot more ethos than the guys we've had at those position coach and coach before. So maybe they did do some pounding the table of like, yeah, Hafley said like, yeah, I need these guys for this. And so, yeah. Joseph says, speaking of dancing off the release, Hunter definitely showed some of that pro day stuff during the season. I would rather he be doing that, right? And showing off that like, yeah, I've got this footwork and also this insane short area explosiveness and burst, right? Rather than not having any type of plan at all. So like some receivers don't have a plan and it's very evident of like, yeah, I've got one move. And then my other move is like, well, I guess I'll just try to out-muscle you in the stem because I'm not reading anything you're doing. So I'd rather have him be doing too much almost. It's kind of like the quarterback thing of like, yeah, we can maybe rein in the aggressiveness, but we can't be hesitant. And so like that, to me, I think when you think of your Wilsons and your Diggs and guys like that, I would rather have to rein it in because he's trying stuff and he's giving corners a lot to think about rather than doing none at all. I don't think that'll slow it too much. Again, I think, he has some of the most rare movement skills I've ever seen at the receiver position. So you combine that with, again, explosive release work, insane displacement out of the cuts at the top. Like, yeah, refinement necessary, but there's a reason that I think the ceiling's so high, and he has certainly shown it. But yeah, it'll be interesting if he gets to focus, right? If he can focus, that would help him. Why would you test if you were going to do that? It could be bad prep. Could be, again, there's some credit, not a lot of credit, but some credit to at least doing everything because a lot of people didn't. But yeah, you definitely don't want to end up with that. All right, I'm going to go to some of my favorite drafts here because, gosh, we're over 2 hours already. Appreciate y'all sticking around for 2 hours. But I'm going to get to a few teams that I really, really liked. I'm going to go to Baltimore first. I know Baltimore maybe wasn't a favorite for everybody. The Emory Jones pick was a little weird in the third. But again, maybe they just want guard help and they want the pedigree of a guy who went to LSU. They could have had Starks and Amos, which I think would have been insane in terms of the start. But obviously, Mike Green's a talented edge rusher, right? He's just got, again, serious off-field allegations and concerns there. But again, on-field talent, and that aside, at 59, it makes sense. And Starks and Hamilton's going to be just a joy to watch, a true treat on Sundays with just how good the instincts are and how good the in-game athleticism is with those two. So that's kind of why. And then also getting guys like Buchanan and Kone and Peebles and Longer Beam on day 3. And then obviously even a developmental tackle in Vincent as well, where I just feel like they always clean up on day 3 really nicely, and they get what seems like 2 guys who really shouldn't be there on the first 2 days. And I think that's exactly what Baltimore did there. Let's go. I wasn't like overwhelmed with how good they did early. Like Tyleek's good, not great. Ratledge, I think, is quite good. And the Tesla one was weird moving up that far. But again, getting Frazier and Hassanin on day 3, I do like what Detroit did. It stinks to say this, but I am a big fan of what the Chiefs did. This is tough, man. This is tough. This is tough to look at. Simmons, again, he may never get back to where he was completely, but if you get 85% of him, I still think he's a very good tackle that you got at 32. And if he doesn't pan out, the process is still good to me because it's the end of the first, and you can take that big swing. Like that's the guy I'd rather be swinging on than some of the others later down the line. Like you're picking at 63, you would have had to go get somebody, right? A Belton, a Trapilo, or an Ursery. Like you would have had to go up and get somebody. Hard to poke holes in that, right? Because again, looking for left tackle, you're in desperate need of one. Why not take the one that showed you the best film pre-injury? And then Norman Lott, good pass rusher. I think he plays a little out of control, but I again, disruption is a pretty good thing to have. Gelati, when he reduces inside, the power he generates is really impressive in terms of an edge rusher, and they'll be kind of able to, as we were kind of talking about last night on the reaction show of like, hey, they can move Chris Jones around, they can move Gelati and kick him inside. Karlaftis can probably still play like on the edge, but you can kind of move guys around and make things more interesting with Spags. Speaking of Spags, he gets a really talented corner in Noel Williams, which a lot of us, I think, were very upset about. And then day 3, Jalen Royals, size and speed, yak player. I don't think he's very refined. And again, he wasn't asked to do a lot in terms of the route tree, so that could be more of this is a situation of like, I just wasn't asked to do this, even though I think I can do this. And so that's maybe something we're dealing with here with Royals, but 133rd I think is still kind of fair for him to be going there. Basa's an athletic linebacker. Again, a lot of the linebackers just don't quite have the high-level processing when they're entering the league. It's hard to find one like that. It's hard to find a Roquan. Just is. Hard to find a CJ Mosley, right? So, and it's not a coincidence that those are all SEC guys and have seen a lot of things. Roquan, I think Kirby Smart, maybe he wasn't there yet. I don't remember if Kirby Smart was there yet, but if he was, it would make sense. Kirby came over after Saban had him as his DC, so like that would kind of make sense. But it seems like it all kind of tracks there with how good the linebacker play can be. Dante Hightower was another great one out of Alabama. So yeah, it's the kind of thing you see with these linebackers nowadays. And Brashard Smith, receiver turned running back, really, really intriguing. Might break his game down here on the channel for KC fans because that fit is really interesting to me. Joseph says fair on the Hunter stuff. I'm probably biased against those Colorado guys. That's fair enough. Fair enough. Hunter's just insane. I just haven't ever seen anything like him in terms of playing both positions at a high level. Joseph says I want a Peebles so bad. Yeah, he kind of does do the Wyatt stuff, and yeah, he's a little shorter and smaller, so it's a sub-package player, but again, on day 3, you're picking like whatever it was, 200th sub-package player who can have that type of win rate as a pass rusher, you'll take that. Um, Joseph says Jalen Royals is Rashee Rice 2.0. Can't complain about having two of that type. That's true. I think his yards per route run against zone was pretty high, and yeah, he is a good yak player, and I think he can win in contested spots down the field, which I think is a pretty decent indicator of like, A, you're getting wins down the field to get targeted, which is a plus. And I know there's a good Substack that's been working through that as a data point to be looking at. But yeah, Royals could definitely be that. Dana also saying that those guys being there where they were is surprising. Yeah, especially for Rashard Smith at 228. I get the running back class is deep, but man, that was surprising that he was still there. So yeah, I really liked what the Chiefs put together. I think I liked this. Let me go back through this. Wow, they did a lot. They had a lot of picks. Yeah, I kind of like this. I think it's worth the shout out. They took Genty, which again, you can have the positional value debate on, but Genty and Besh, I think, really elevates the offense. You have Geno Smith in there, and you have Bowers, and you have Myers, and then you add Genty and Besh to that. And I know they have Michael Mayer too. Porter's a high upside swing. I think he's got a long way to go, but he's got athleticism and ball skills. So again, I get the swing there. Rodgers and Grant, two swings on the O-line that they absolutely needed to take, and they took them with compensatory picks to end the round. I do like that for them. Dante Thornton, I'm kind of iffy on. I feel like he's just bigger Trey Tucker that the Raiders already have. Hemingway's an interesting pass rusher. Pegues is fun. Maybe they treat him as a fullback a little bit. They took both of the FCS QBs. Obviously, one's going to play receiver, but that's kind of fun. With just one pick in between them, they took the two FCS guys, and then I think Lindenberg's intriguing at 222. So the Raiders draft is pretty solid. I seem to always like what the Rams do. I don't know. Ferguson Stewart's an interesting start. I like Ferguson. I think he can be the field stretcher though, which is okay. And Stewart's undersized, but does a pretty good job. To me, I think it was getting Chris Paul here and potentially Mumfield here for some depth. So not bad. I got to get to New England though. This is a dream draft as far as I'm concerned. Brandon Hallam says Chiefs really just wait for all the teams to pass on good guys to have to point. Yeah, it's true. You have to point fingers at all the other teams. So yeah, it's like, hey, you did this. We didn't. You just gave us this. You did this. You let this happen, right? And that's kind of the Baltimore and Philly thing too, which Philly will get to as well. But yeah, they do. They just wait on these guys to fall. But as far as New England goes, I like this a lot. Will Campbell, I think you could maybe make the case, in my opinion, that I would have maybe gone Membu. But again, Will Campbell's got that high pedigree as well. And he's played left tackle, and maybe they thought maybe Membu couldn't, and that's why they went this direction. Love Travion, big play threat from anywhere in the field. Love Kyle Williams, good release work, explosive playmaker. Young, ascending, athletic center. Very nice. Jared Wilson at 95, no less. I like that. I love the two upside swings. Again, Farmer's very inconsistent. He should be using his 35-inch arm length to much more of an advantage, but the flashes are pretty impressive. And Swinson at 146. Again, we thought there might be. Drew pointed out it was like, suspended for something, but if you get that pass rush, prowess on this team, I think you got to be really impressed. I think Kobe Miner's a little undersized, but that could be interesting as well. Kicker, don't ever do that. But I Campbell, Henderson, Williams, Wilson, Farmer, Swinson really intrigue me a lot. Again, I don't think Philly did the best early, but I really like what happened late. Again, Campbell, injuries you got to worry about a little bit, but again, he's a really strong linear athlete who can play beside Zach Bond. Should he be healthy? Makuba's a little undersized, and that could be, a potential issue as well. But I do like Robinson, Smile Munden. Nothing wrong with adding O-line depth. And then the Cameron Williams swing, which just feels so them. That was so them. And then Powell Ryland. Also, again, just a guy with a deep bag of pass rush stuff, and they kind of needed it, right? They didn't address it, did they? No. And again, Campbell might take rush snaps as well, kind of because he's almost the same size as Nolan Smith. But to get a guy like Powell Ryland at 209 who has a deep bag of moves, that's really good. That's really good for them. Trying to think of anybody else. I mean, we talked about Tampa Bay already. We kind of already hit on San Francisco. These first three are nuts. Or no, sorry. They had 2 picks before that. But Williams, Collins, West is crazy. And again, Nick Martin, he's undersized, but everybody and I've seen a little bit of him, but he plays physical. But again, he's probably going to have plenty of chances if he's a starter because they've got just behemoths at D tackle and at edge who I think should be able to free a lot of things up for him. Jordan James is interesting. Curtis Rourke, again, I think could be a good backup. I don't love the receiver swings, to be honest. But yeah, those 3 for the D line. Really impressive. The Chargers was kind of intriguing. A lot of skill position swings for them. Lambert, Smith, Gadsden, Hampton, Harris. That's a lot of swings, but they did get Caldwell and Kennard to help the defense, which I think they really, really needed to do. So yeah, very impressed there with the Chargers. They kind of did the trenches thing. They kind of set up the O-line to be really successful after that. Kind of mentioned it. Obviously, they put a lot in place with the O-line, and I think Slater might be the final piece, which is kind of exciting for them. But Iomanor, Helm, Winston, if he can be healthy off that injury, Oladejo is a project pass rusher and obviously going to get Ward, and they got Restrepo in undrafted free agency. It's kind of how you want to do it if you're the Titans. And again, it's easy to do when you're kind of picking firsts in every round, but still got to get it done. I want to talk about the Jets too, real quick as well. Arian Smith, just kind of a speed guy, but Mason Taylor can do some inline stuff. I love Membu and Fashanu as a duo. Azarie Thomas and Malachi Moore definitely feel like Aaron Glenn types in the secondary. Mauigoa, that's probably wrong. I should have researched him. They showed some athleticism on the Bleacher Report stream. He's somebody I didn't get to. But from everything others said, it could be interesting. And then Tyler Barron, a lot of production too in terms of pressures, especially from Tennessee and Miami. So Jets not too shabby either. And I think that's really all I had. I think my 2 question marks. Actually, I don't mind Buffalo's. Again, Sanders and Jackson weren't my favorites, nor was Walker. Actually, no, I don't like this. I don't like this actually. I like Hairston. A little bit. Hancock's a good slot, and Dorian Strong, but I think the corner swings, and then London outside zone kind of guy tackle. But I didn't really like what happened in the mid rounds for them. So I guess that was kind of an up and down one for me. I don't seem to really like the Buffalo drafts very often. I don't know why that is. I know Brandon Hallam. I don't know if he's still here. Didn't really dive into theirs as much, but a lot going on here. The Mertz pick was very befuddling, but Keontae Hamilton might be flying under the radar a bit too much. But like Mertz and trading up a lot for Woody Marks was kind of a strange one. But other than that, Jalen Reed, like that. Nolan Higgins, how can you not be upset about that? Jalen Smith's a dog. He's such a D'Amico pick, and then I like Ursery. So Houston also a little up and down. Okay, real quick, and I'll catch up to some comments, but we got to talk about the 2 teams from Ohio. These are the teams that I don't know. I think again, Cleveland trading back, analytically speaking, is good value, but I think you kind of went like, well, maybe we could get a boat, and I don't know if you got it. Now, 2 swings at QB with your situation, totally fine with that. Again, I think Fannin has to kind of be a slot receiver, so I don't know if that's the plan and that they want to do that. That's fine. I thought there were better guys than Sampson on the board. Again, they got Sanders at 144, so it's hard to complain, but I don't know. I think Graham's got the lowest ceiling of the top 4 defensive tackles, personally. I don't know. I just feel like it could have been better. I don't like Judkins this high either. I think the 2 running back swings were the problem for me. I didn't like either one of them. And again, Schwess, I like Schwess, but man, if he can't handle contact and he's up to 242, that will be a problem. That will be a problem. But this is the one. This is the one. Stewart's a high ceiling swing. And then I guess I like Rivers and Brooks, but I just feel like we didn't do enough damage here. 2 linebackers, neither of which I'm that big of a fan of, especially Knight in the top 50. And then, I don't know, Fairchild's okay. I think they kind of struck out in terms of the Georgia interior guys. I think they got the worst one. Rivers intrigues me, but like, man, you got to be better. So that's kind of where I'm at there. Were there any other questions that I didn't get to? Yeah, we got 25 backs that were taken. Yes, thanks for answering that, Dana. Appreciate it. Joseph saying Chris Paul behind that D line was such a good spot for him. Yeah, I agree with that. Joseph Gleason asks, well, you probably said before I hopped on, what did you think of the Pax Hall overall? I think it's good. I don't think it's Goody's best draft, but I don't think it's a bad one. Again, the 3 swings on the front 7, I think were good ones, were quality ones. It's kind of actually different types, which we were kind of wondering if that was going to happen. And I think Brinson could end up being a nose tackle type in that room, which is a good sign. And they brought in Stackhouse as a UDFA, so that's nice. I mean, if they're kind of in the move on stage at receiver, I understand it. Golden, I think, could be the long-term X at some point. And then you have either you bring back Watson to kind of be the stretch the field, or maybe Savion takes it over after he does, I think, more of the gadget stuff early on, and maybe get some creative running back snaps or whatnot. But if Belton's really slated to play right guard, I completely understand that. Because again, they don't draft guards, right? They very rarely draft guards, Green Bay. They draft tackles to move inside, or centers, I guess. Right? Myers and Elton technically was a center. So, and again, Monk, I guess, was a guard, but clearly had the center plan for him as well. So, yeah, I like it. Again, it's not my favorite draft of all the drafts this year, but and I don't think it's my favorite Goody draft, but it's a solid one overall. Very solid. Rock Bass says he liked Tyler Barron. Yeah, the production was certainly there with Tyler Barron. That would have been cool. Drew says I don't think Cleveland did bad. We'll see. Again, they picked up another pick next year too, which is good, but I just feel like they could have done better with the hand they were presented with those picks back. Personally, I don't know what their O-line looks like. I feel like they have a lot of guys on expiring deals, and I don't think they really addressed it. So that's another question mark that I have. If they kind of get banged up again, like, you're going to be throwing those rookies behind kind of a struggling offensive line. I would have liked them to go get Membu early, personally. And again, I like Schwess, but I think the 2 running back swings were not great for Cleveland. But the Browns taking Sanders seems like an owner's move. It did seem like the reaction from Barry and Stefanski was very, very muted. And that could be. Yeah, it could have been ownership for sure. Drew says switch out Judkins for Henderson. That would help, I think. That would help. But then again, I think if you do that, right, you switch out Sampson for like Martinez. And I think if they went Henderson-Martinez, I'd like that way, way more personally. But again, I still think they needed to swing at O-line because I don't think they did, right? They didn't do that. And O-line, I feel like, was a heavy need for them. Yeah, they didn't take any. They didn't take any O-line. I can't believe you don't do that. We always have to have these conversations with some teams of like, why aren't you taking O-line? You're not set at it, and you got expiring contracts and injuries that ravage your line, and you didn't take any. Joseph asked, did Sorrell rush from the inside much? I don't think so. Just because, again, if he was hovering around that 250, 255, and he listed 256, like, that's just not the type of guy you reduce inside very often. Again, Kingsley was a little different because they have him kind of doing the crossover stuff at nose tackle a few times. But yeah, I don't think he had a whole lot, if any, rushing from the inside. So again, that would have been more of the Joseph. That would have been more of the if they took Birch or if they took Elijah Roberts, two guys they met with, like that would have been like guys you could reduce inside for sure. Especially Roberts, who might have even just played there. Yeah, that's the thing with Cleveland. I don't understand the no O-line picks. That's inexcusable. At the very least, Cincinnati did it. I don't think Cincinnati did the best job of it, but like Cincinnati didn't like ignore it. At least like Cleveland just said, no, we're good. It's like, man, you got rookies coming in to play QB. I don't know, strange. Yeah, Elijah Roberts going 2 picks ahead in the 5th was a tough one. AFAM, what's going on? Said we need another O-lineman. They drafted 2. They brought in at least 2 more in UDFA. So yeah, keep filling the cupboard, as you're saying here. We take O-line even when we're set. Never a bad position to be proactive with. Obviously QB either. Green Bay has done it and it's worked out very well to be proactive there, but being proactive at O-line is super helpful. Because again, for the longest time, we were begging Pittsburgh to like, hey, take O-line. What are you doing? And they finally smartened up these last few drafts of like, no, we need to make this a priority. As they were facing a similar situation as Cleveland is now, aging guys late on the contracts, way into their second or third contracts of like, it's not going to happen much longer and you're not prepping for the future at all. And it's going to hit you, pretty hard once it happens. So, yeah, that's kind of how it is. Move Kenny Clark to center. No, he's the backup nose tackle this go around. But yeah, anything else from anybody as we kind of close up here? We're almost at 2.5 hours as kind of a recap show, and I'm glad we got to talk about Green Bay a lot because I know that's what y'all really wanted to do, which is totally fine. But I wanted to make sure we caught some other stuff as well. Oh, I did want to bring up one more thing because I don't think we talked about this at all. Somebody showed this to me, though. I did see, hopefully everybody saw Warren Brinson after Georgia went back-to-back. He grabbed a mic from CBS Sports, and he was interviewing the CBS Sports sports reporters, which I think was good. But I really want to get to this because I thought this was really cool. And again, I know he has an off-field thing. I don't know if it's true or not. Some people have told me it isn't. If so, that's, stuff that it maybe harmed his stock a little bit. But this is super cool. I think I can play this. I want to show this just for a second of Maxwell Harrison getting hyped, dapping up everybody who's coming, his way that has been picked. This is very cool stuff. Love this. That Harrison was dapping up everybody that was coming through of like, heck yeah, man, let's go. Like, you got picked. That's so cool. I really like that. And that's what I was wondering because they showed Golden's walk once he got picked. And I was like, oh, who dapped him up? Was that like who was that? Teammate? I don't think there's any other Texas guys there. Was that a high school guy? No, it's just Maxwell Harrison hyping up everybody. I love that. I absolutely love that. That's just so cool. He's enjoying himself. He's enjoying it for everybody else. The energy givers are the type of people you want to have around you. And that is truly awesome stuff from him. I just really wanted to share that because I thought it was one of the cooler parts of the draft. And there's so many, right? The guys get emotional, right? We talked about Sorrell already. We talked Campbell got really emotional on Thursday. Harmon, I don't know if everybody heard this, but, his mother was on, Derek Harmon's mother was on life support, and she did pass over the weekend, or on Thursday night, or maybe even to Friday, sometime during the draft, but he was able to get to tell her that he was drafted by the Steelers, which I think that's at least a nice thing that he got to tell her at least that he got drafted before she passed. So at least they got that one conversation because yeah, you never know. So that's kind of a little bit of a bittersweet, of course, moment, but you get a lot of those. This is above all, we critique the selections and we break down the game and all that. But this is obviously, milestone moments for these guys. And so that's kind of, I think some people who I know treat the draft as just a big celebration of guys getting picked. And I think that's, kind of a cool way to look at it, because obviously Maxwell Harrison's doing it, right? Guys are making the league. It's really cool stuff. So as much as obviously we do the analysis and we critique stuff and all that, at the end of the day, 257 guys got picked, and they get to join the league, which is really cool. Really cool. I'm glad that we get to make this weekend a big thing, because it's well-deserved for these guys. So very, very cool stuff. I think that's going to do it. We've reached 2.5. This has been quite a week, truly. And I am very thankful. Yeah, a lot of these guys do come from nothing, and their parents are putting everything on the line for them to make it here, and they're putting everything on the line to make it here. So it is kind of a emotional release and emotional just all of that for these guys once they get picked. So it is very, very cool. But yeah, before everybody's out, I know Rock Bass says he's out of here. Appreciate the content Packer coverage. Looking forward to all the Green Bay player dives. That will be on the channel. So yeah, a couple quick things before we go. Just as updates, right? And what you're going to see. Again, I think this is still in my clipboard. Yep. Okay. For those who are here, that link is to the other channel. That's where all of the even more Green Bay centric breakdowns will be. So make sure you're subbed over there. We'll have a few things coming out. We'll probably do the deep dive live show over there. But yeah, keep an eye out for all the player breakdowns. That'll be here. And then I said Substack, which I think there's a link on the channel homepage here that you can get there. And I know some people have found it and some people have pledged money to that, which is very, very nice, even though I haven't been posting there recently. So once I start posting more, those pledges could become a thing. And yeah, we can definitely do that. But I want to make sure there's content for you guys before I accept all those pledges. So I hope you'll go over there as well. That link is on the homepage and in that kind of little blurb description on the homepage as well. So yeah, definitely check all that out. There's a lot coming. And again, I want to thank everybody who has come in here, to comment, to just hang out, to throw the thumbs up down there, to just, anybody who has watched anything that has gone on this week on here. I appreciate y'all. If I could make one request, I guess I've already made one request of hey, check this stuff out. But if I could make one, would love if everybody who hasn't checked out the reaction to my way too early mock draft from last year, I would encourage you to check that out. It's a fun thing I do every year. You can kind of go back and compare the first round that happened on Thursday to what was projected way back even in August. I did it a little later than I usually do it, but it shows you that difference. So if you wanted something to kind of maybe a little different than the stuff we've been talking about for the last 3-4 days, that would be a kind of maybe a little bit of a different thing. And that's something we're going to be releasing, in a couple weeks, is a way too early 2026 mock, because we want to react to it in a year's time. So yeah, if you guys want to check that out, if that's something, little favor, that'd be really cool. If you did that. And yeah, of course, share this. Obviously a lot of y'all are Packer fans. If you got other NFL fans that might enjoy just, again, film breakdowns of their rookies or in general, this is a good place to be, because as we said, we're going to keep branching out as we continue to hopefully elevate things around here. So, and we almost reached 2,500 subs this week, which again would have been a cool milestone to hit, but we're going to hit it eventually, I think. Maybe after one of these Packers breakdowns goes live, but that's another cool milestone we'll get to hit, and hopefully, we keep pushing this thing to the moon, and maybe 5Ks within our reach, doubling it by end of year. So that'll be a fun goal. But yeah, again, it means a lot that you guys, and especially to people like Rock Bass and and Drew last night who are donating. Obviously, not expected, but always much appreciated. That just any support for this has been outstanding. I can't believe, about 4 years ago I've been starting on this thing on YouTube and was like, could this be something that we could do? And it looks like we can do it. That's obviously can't be a full-time thing yet, right? We're a little ways from that, but we're working there. And the only reason we're getting to work toward it is because of you guys. That's it. I can talk into a void and nothing's going to happen, right? It's because of you guys and your interests, and your sub and your like on everything that you do like on this channel that helps. That's the only way we get there. It's because of you guys. So appreciate all of you. And to everybody who was in here tonight, again, bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning in to just a guy sitting here talking about, a kind of a bunch of lottery tickets, essentially, with as much trying to be an analyst as possible. And yet, kind of like baseball where you get a lot of stuff wrong. So just, it is crazy. But yeah, thank you all so much. And for guys like Jonathan and White009, who might be new tonight, I don't know, but who might be new. Thank you for hanging around. Maybe you aren't, and maybe it's been a little while or whatnot, but I appreciate all of you guys in here, the Josephs, Brandon Hallam, a Houston fan. I mentioned White and Jonathan and Rock Bass, obviously for the dono, and Dana's in here, as a Cardinals fan, which is very cool. I know Mike was in here a lot tonight, and even if you weren't, and like Brian and Coach Len, who you drop a couple comments, you sit around for a little bit and just kind of listen. That's always very cool as well. And AFAM obviously was in here. I mentioned Mike Kawano. Chris N, I think, was maybe the first to comment tonight. That was really nice and really cool. He always seems to be in here early on. And I mentioned Joseph Gleason, Joseph W, and all the Josephs who come in. That's always a fun dynamic. And of course Drew and yeah, the OGs who are here like all the time. Oh, Adam Vincic for coming in and asking about Pittsburgh, and maybe he's still here listening in. Like, just that kind of stuff is always fun. So yeah, again, if you got other NFL fans that might be interested in some stuff, I'm going to try and do kind of a breakdown of as many teams as possible, at least a pick of theirs. For the Packer fans, if you want to tune in tomorrow and see what maybe y'all missed out on with Trey Amos, I was planning on doing the Amos breakdown no matter who picked him. So that will be here if you want to see who's joining the Commanders. But yeah, thank you guys again so much. Brandon Hallam, I'll check on this last one. Io Manor and Hunter going to be in the same division. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that is pretty cool. And for all those who are saying thank you for your time, thank you for your time that you sit here and give, just listening and commenting and answering and asking questions. So yeah, and what a week in Green Bay for the draft. We'll see you around for sure. Hopefully in the comments here and over on Weekly Cheddar. So again, thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Go to the Packers fans. I respect all of your teams. To those who were in here, Adam for Pittsburgh and Brandon for Houston, and Dana for Arizona, and all of the others who may be coming to find this either during or after. But again, thank you all again for maybe the 14th time or whatever it was. But yeah, thank you for this week. And yeah, we'll catch you guys very soon. Take care, everybody. Have a good rest of your week.